Did I lose this chance for one last dance with my shaking hands? I can barely stand. Did I do too much? Did I push you away? I was in a rush, I'm sorry. And I know that you'll forget. I wake up in the night in a cold sweat to face it. Is it over for us now before it began? I know it's crazy, but in my mind I had plans. I had plans. Did I lose this chance for one last dance with my shaking hands? I can barely ask. We got runaway plans. Baby, where do you wanna go? I'm scared too, you know, but I'll never let go. Will I find you somehow? I hope you're okay. All those memories in your driveway. Can we turn back time before it flies away? Can I hold on to something? Never thought you would come back. Can't believe you'd remember those times we laughed and cried.
How's it going, everybody? Mark Johansson here with Midgard Mercantile, back for another live stream. So for those who are just tuning in or just starting to watch, and this is your first stream of ours, this is how it works. So basically we're going to be showcasing a bunch of different minerals, different specimens, fossils and whatnot. And as you can see, we got this little display screen. So we're going to be showcasing all sorts of things in our little display box. And if there's something that you guys like and you want that, just put it in the chat or send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and we'll get right back to you and get it all worked out. So I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with some malachite. So as I'm showing this piece off, I'm going to kind of give a little description of our business. So this is a $96 piece of malachite from the Congo. Now, most malachite that you find on the market does actually come from the Congo. It's a very copper-rich country. And malachite is just a gorgeous mineral. So about our business, my dad and I, we run the business together. It's a family business. And we've been in business now for about 3 years, going on 4 years. And it just started out of a passion for minerals and rocks and geology. I'm currently going to school to be a planetary geologist. My dad and I have been amateur rock hounds for many years. So for me, it seemed like a great opportunity just as I'm going to school, have a crystal business, made sense. And then also too, it's nice to work with my dad. So yeah, that's kind of like our business. And basically what we do is we do a lot of like little farmers markets, open houses, gem shows here in San Diego, California. And basically we've been doing that for, again, like about 3 years, but because of the pandemic, we had to stop, sadly, which, you know, is sad. But instead, what we decided to do is show some awesome minerals live. So because we couldn't host the gem show in person, now we're doing it every Sunday throughout the pandemic. And that way you guys can see all the cool stuff that we have. We have all sorts of stuff from around the world. So again, it's a kind of a neat little thing that we're doing here. So, but yeah, you know, just come and watch, tell your friends and family about it, see something cool you like, just let us know, and we'll take care of the order for you. So back to this piece of malachite. So malachite is a really cool stone. It's a copper carbonate mineral, and it kind of grows in layers. So you may notice these little rings or these little circles on the specimen. These are little growth lines, almost like tree rings. You know, trees have tree rings for age lines, kind of. Minerals have the same thing. So, you know, minerals grow in layers over time, and the newest layer is the layer that's deposited on top. So if you notice these rings that are in the center, those are the oldest growth lines, and the rings on the outside are the youngest growth lines. So how malachite grows is you have mineral-rich water that has dissolved copper in it, and this water will evaporate. And when it evaporates, it takes carbon from the atmosphere along with oxygen, and takes the copper, and it makes a copper carbonate mineral. And with the water, when it evaporates, it leaves behind a tiny molecular thin level layer of this little just crust, and that crust is malachite or turquoise or azurite, depending on what kind of ion or what kind of contamination you have from other chemical sources. But over the course of hundreds, thousands, millions of years, layer after layer will build up, and you get something really beautiful like this piece of malachite here. So malachite, again, it's a really good quality malachite is hard to come by. This is, AA to AAA quality malachite from the Congo. Again, most of the malachite specimens that you'll see around the world do come from the Congo. Another really copper-rich nation, and to kind of showcase another malachite specimen we have here. This is more of like a solid piece, but again, this is probably one of my really favorite specimens that we have right now. Look at that. Look at those, just those bands. That is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh. Yeah, malachite is, it's a really fun mineral. So much history, too. I mean, think about that. Like, every single layer, you know, you're talking, you know, maybe thousands of years, millions of years even, just to form something like this. Carbonate minerals and evaporate minerals tend to take less time to form. But, again, it's just a really beautiful product here. So most of our like malachite specimens that we have, weight-wise, they're about the same. Size-wise, like they can range in diameter a little bit. All of them are $96 in this specific flat that we have. So they're all like of the same quality. I'll take a look at that. So, you know, what's really cool about this specimen too, on one side you have these beautiful kind of like, you know, big rings, and then on the side, every side, you have all of those bands, right? Take a look at that. And then the other side, I just noticed, look at that. Oh my gosh. That is absolutely gorgeous. And then the back side. The underside is really pretty. A ton of little just polyps everywhere. And that's just the one thing about, you know, minerals, just it doesn't matter what angle you look at them from, they're just all really beautiful. Again, $96 for this beautiful piece of malachite. Same thing with the other guy. And we're going to move on to our next grouping of specimens. So we got a ton of aura quartz. You know, aura quartz is just another, you know, fancy term for vacuum deposition quartz. So what that is, you may have seen crystals that look really kind of iridescent and shiny and colorful, like this piece, for example. So this is actually a natural point, but the coating is man-made. So when I say coating, what does that mean? Well, basically what that means is that you start off with a crystal point, or any object for that matter, and whoever is manufacturing these will get a vacuum chamber. And this vacuum chamber will have an object inside of it, like this crystal. What they'll do is they'll suck all the air out and then pump in a metal vapor. And this metal vapor could be cobalt, for example. This is a cobalt aura point, so cobalt vapor was used. You can use gold, platinum, all sorts of things, chromium. And what you do is you pump in this vapor, and the vapor will deposit an atomic, just atom-thin layer of material. It'll just deposit an oxidized layer of that metal onto the crystal. Now, depending on how thick of a layer that you have, will determine, you know, how colorful the piece is. So whenever you oxidize something, you know, you may have seen like an oil slick, or, you know, when you heat up a piece of metal and then the oxygen gets right to it and makes it all colorful. That's oxidation. Oxidation just works in many different ways. You know, you can have like heat, oxidation. So you heat something up and then oxygen rushes in to kind of go in there and mess with things. You can have things that will oxidize and then decompose, you know, like iron, for example. So for this specimen here, as you can see, you can't see through the crystal, right? It's a very kind of thick layer of cobalt that has been deposited on this piece. And so the longer that you leave the specimen inside of the vacuum chamber, the thicker the layer will be. So again, this is a $48 specimen. Now I'm going to bring out another specimen that I have here. This is an angel aura point. And this one you can actually see through. Take a look at that. These are really pretty. I think the Angel Aura and the Sunset Aura are probably my favorite, but then again, the Cobalt Aura is pretty cool too. Now, you may be looking at the price. This is $39, the other one was $48. Remember, we're using metal vapor on this thing, right? This is platinum. So platinum was used to coat this. So platinum is fairly expensive. So you can imagine just the whole process, a vacuum chamber, putting the crystal in there, depositing platinum vapor onto the crystal. It's a very expensive process, but it's really cool. So that yields to the price. Yeah, just take a look at this. I mean, just the color alone. Now, I really like these specimens because it's such a light coating, right? So you can actually see through it. I think that is really bitchin'. So we're going to move on to our next one. This is another Cobalt Aura specimen, kind of finishing up that set. Another $48 specimen. Now this one, I actually really like this specimen. I've been eyeing it for a while. Just take a look. Like, the iridescence here, just the way the light reflects off of these surfaces and the color. I mean, take a look at that. I think that's so cool. You know, and even like this, it kind of looks like its own little landscape, like a little mountain range. It's kind of neat. Yeah, these specimens are really cool. Now, we have a lot of these aura points. Now, the single points, we're actually running low on those, but we have a lot of these really pretty cactus aura points, which we'll probably show a little later, and those are really pretty. So we have opal aura and sunset aura for those. Yeah, just take a look at that slight little color variation there. That's really cool. Now, for the malachite, remember earlier we were talking about those growth lines? See these striations on the side of the crystal point? Now, imagine this thing didn't have its coating on top of it, right? Those striations are actually growth lines. So again, you know, just kind of keeping a record of the history of each individual point. Kind of neat, just like tree rings. Again, another beautiful specimen. All right, so we're going to move on to our next grouping here. We have another Angel Aura points, another $39 specimen. This one's a bit thicker. Another really pretty piece. I mean, just take a look at that. That color change right there is really pretty. I mean, imagine putting this in your windowsill, you know, right? And just in the morning sun catches it, you know, catches the light. I mean, this thing would be gorgeous. Oftentimes with a lot of our specimens, we often like take them out and look at them in the sunlight. They look completely different in natural light, which is kind of cool. Now, you may also notice that the coating here too is on all sides. So when you put something in a vacuum chamber and let the vapor deposit, whatever side that it's sitting on will not be exposed to the vapor. So that means that the process, right, of making something like this, you have to put it in the vacuum chamber, deposit a layer of metal on top of it, and then stop the process, go in, turn it over, and then restart the whole process again. So again, it's kind of like another look at that whole labor-intensive process. You know, it's quite a lot goes into doing this to the crystal. So oftentimes, a lot of people who are making these, they will do it on a mass scale, do a lot at once. But yeah, just take a look at that. That is, I love that side. That side's really pretty. All right, we're gonna move on to our next series of aura points here. These are our last two for now. These are sunset aura points, and these are really pretty. These are both $36 each. and just take a look at that. Completely different, right? So this uses gold. So instead of platinum or cobalt, we're using gold. Kind of a neat little change here. So definitely looks golden in color, right? Yeah, just take a look at that. That's really cool. That beautiful like pink in there. Yeah, each side is kind of like has a different coloration. Look at that. So it's like we got pink or red here, and we got like a little bit of like a yellowish, bluish kind of change there. Then we have more of a bluish over here. I mean, just every single side just changes color. I think that's really cool. And again, look at that. You can see right through it too. So this is a bit of a thicker coating than the Angel Aura, but again, you know, you can see right through it, and it's just thick enough to where you kind of can't see through it, so it's kind of like mysterious, I think. All right, we're gonna look at our next specimen here. Now this one is really pretty. Just each face, each facet, so smooth. Now, as a geologist, I really like seeing those lines. You know, that's like, I think that's really neat. But whenever you have a point that has not a lot of striations on one side or whatever, that usually means that the crystal was growing very stably for a period of time. Whenever you see a lot of striations, that means that there was a lot of temperature change and pressure change. So the crystal was having like, you know, kind of a topsy-turvy time growing. But when you have these really smooth facets, that generally tells me that the crystal had an easier time growing. It was more stable, meaning that, you know, the same temperature and pressure over a certain amount of time. But yeah, just another beautiful piece. This one's a lot lighter. You can see through it. Just another beautiful sunset aura point. This one's a lot more clear too. Take a closer look here at some of these, like some of those inclusions there. That's really cool. That's a really pretty angle. Almost looks like amber, you know. There's actually some beautiful amber specimens that we have from South America that are really pretty. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, we're going to move on to our next series of specimens here. So we've covered the malachite, the aura quartz. Now we're going to look at something that's pretty cool. This is some local stuff from California. Stuff that I like. These are pink halite specimens from Trona, California. Now, halite is just another name for rock salt, right? So this is natural rock salt. These are naturally forming crystals. And there's a lake, a dry lake bed in Trona, California. Now, Trona, California is in the middle of the desert, and the dry lake bed out there is, you know, it fills up with water seasonally. So in the wintertime or after like winter rains or snow melt, the water will come down and fill up this little dry lake bed temporarily. And there's a lot of salt and other minerals within this lake bed. And just going to show off one of these pieces here. Now, all these specimens here are $19. And what's kind of neat about these is that, you know, think about this, right? You have this dry lake bed, it fills up with water, dissolves all of these evaporate minerals, like the salt, for example. And as the water evaporates, it becomes very saturated and concentrated. And the salinity level is very, very high. And what happens is you end up having so many minerals within this water that it'll just precipitate out as crystals. So what's really neat about this stuff is that it forms these really kind of cool cubic structures. And you can kind of see that pink coloration in there, which is kind of neat, kind of classic for this area. You don't always see halite with this coloration. And, you know, think about this too, is that when the water comes and dissolves all the salt, all the crystals are gone. They get dissolved. But then, when the water evaporates, they reprecipitate out, and you get more halite crystals, which is kind of cool. So a lot of these specimens are kind of really neat. Again, these are water-soluble minerals, so do not keep them in a place where there's lots of water or humidity. So definitely don't keep them outside. Don't put them in your bathroom. Don't put them next to a sink in the kitchen. These are nice to put on your shelf in a living room somewhere. So, you know, just be aware that, you know, this is salt, and salt will dissolve in water. So that's just a little PSA from Midgard Mercantile about halite. Don't let your halite dissolve. This is really cool. Kind of a really kind of close-up look here. Notice those little lines, right? So it's something you see a lot in nature, these growth lines. Now, these are less temperature and pressure driven. These are more just nature driven, like it's just the natural path that the atoms will take when they're making those bonds to create this crystal structure. So this is less pressure or temperature oriented. It's not like you're talking about a crystal point growing, but this is more of like a just a natural thing. And that's all determined, right, by the charge of what you have. So those salt ions are, you know, have a certain charge. They're going to align in a certain way. This one's really cool. I really like this piece. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like a lot of people will try to sell minerals that are not real and say that they're real. That really bothers me. We actually, there's a funny story I have about, I was at a gem show, and we were on a buying trip, and I was looking at some fossils, and I always take a hand lens and a UV light and other tools with me, and I was at a fossil booth, and I saw some fossils that didn't look real, so I took out my hand lens and my black light. And a lot of times what people will do when they're selling things like trilobites, for example. Trilobites are a very popular fossil specimen. What they'll do is they'll take a cast of a real trilobite, and they will try to replicate it. So they'll make a cast of a trilobite, and they'll plaster it onto a piece of limestone, dolomitic limestone, which is where those fossils are found. And the plaster will fluoresce a certain color. It'll fluoresce like a drabby kind of dark green color. So if you have a black light, you can actually see that fluorescence. Super glue, for example, will fluoresce like a neon green color. So usually in most fossils, if you see a fossil specimen and you see super glue on it, a lot of fossils, they come out in broken pieces. So to properly kind of repair the specimen, you kind of need that, which recognizing if it's a repair job compared to a fake specimen, that's the key. But again, you can tell if it's a fake trilobite if it has literally a dark drabby ring of plaster around the base of the actual cast and the rock specimen. Anyways, found a piece like that, and oh boy, that guy came rushing over and said, "Oh, these aren't real. These aren't real. Here are the real ones." The real ones are also much more expensive, so just keep that in mind too. Now this is the last piece of the Trona pink halite I'm going to show here. Now, this piece is probably one of my favorites, and I just like it because it's just really cool. You have this cubic structure kind of oriented in this direction, and then you have this like stair stepping, right? I mean, it's almost like it looks like a staircase. And it does remind you a lot of another kind of interesting mineral that's, well, man-made, a metallic mineral called bismuth. And just the way it orients itself as the crystal is cooling and growing. Again, it's this kind of the same kind of pattern. You see a lot of these same patterns throughout nature, which is kind of cool. Again, these are all $19 each. Kind of a cool mineral specimen to have if you're a collector. And Trona halite, this is one of those kind of world famous rock hounding spots. So definitely one of these kind of pieces you need to have in your collection. All right, so last weekend we looked at some kunzite. Now, kunzite is found most often in the Middle East. All of our specimens are from Afghanistan. And these are really pretty mineral specimens. So kunzite has this interesting optical effect where if you shine light through it one way, it will look clear. If you shine light through it another way, it will look like pink or blue or yellow. And that's because the crystal grows in rods. So you can kind of see this effect with this specimen, for example. So you can see the pink already. Look at that. But then if we turn it, we see that light is channeled through the crystal specimen. So clear, pink, clear, pink. Now, again, this is kind of like the same way fiberglass works or fiber optic cables. You know, you have a rod of some kind that can channel light, and the light will just travel through that rod. So that's exactly what is going on here. You can even see the rods, these crystalline rods that are like literally, mineralized together. Each little striation that you see there is an individual crystal rod. Another beautiful specimen. Now, these specimens here are pretty rare, so they're a bit expensive. This piece, for example, $125. So again, this is some kind of a nice specimen to have if you're a mineral collector. And also, too, kunzite's used in jewelry as well. So a lot of jewelers will use this mineral because of its cool optical effect. Now, these kunzite specimens, these are all rated at AAA quality, so they're very nice quality specimens. This is something that, again, you'd want if you're a collector, or if you want to, want something really pretty and cool. Also, too, metaphysically speaking, you have a lot of these kunzite specimens being used in meditations or rituals because of the rods being aligned. You have, channeling of light, so channeling of energy, that kind of thing. Kind of a neat little snippet there. Now, our next kunzite specimen, I think what we'll do is we'll go from biggest to smallest, since, might as well do that. Now, again, that was a $125 specimen. This is a $100 specimen, so a bit cheaper. But again, this is a really large piece. I actually really like this piece. There's not a lot of pink in this one. There's a little bit. You can kind of see it towards the base, so very light pink. Even when you turn it, you might not be able to see it. Yeah, see, it's like very light. This piece I really like due to its clarity. So, just take a look at how clear that piece is. You can see, it's almost like ice, the camera is having a hard time focusing on it because it's so clear. There we go. Take a look at that. Yeah, so kunzite specimens, a lot of times you're going to see these kunzite crystals, lower quality ones, with this kind of very opaque coloration. And that's just because of impurities. Finding kunzite that's very clear like this is rare. So like if I was a jeweler, right, I'm going to be choosing the top portion. I'm going to be cutting this and shaping this piece for jewelry instead of this piece. This piece I would just throw aside. Again, this is another beautiful kunzite specimen, $100 from Afghanistan. Now, kunzite is actually very similar, just crystal and structure-wise, to tourmaline. It's found in pegmatites. So those are, huge crystallized globules of magma that have cooled and crystallized, and you have a lot of your really beautiful gemstones being found in pegmatites, like emeralds, sapphires, garnets, tourmaline, aquamarine, kunzite. All of your, beautiful gemstones take a lot of heat and pressure to grow, so it takes a lot of heat and pressure to force magma up from the mantle into the crust, and it takes a long time for those pieces of magma to cool, and you need a lot of time to have crystals forming. Lots of time for magma to cool to create something like this. Now this next specimen I'm going to show, this is our next largest one. This is another beautiful piece of kunzite. A very, very light pink color. I mean, you can even barely see the pinkness in this one. But again, look at the clarity. That's what you're really looking for, right? This clear crystal. And look at those growth lines. Those rods just aligned like that. That's really cool. They're very clean. Now, notice how the rods are like just growing in one direction, right? Whenever there's a change in heat or pressure, what will happen is the rod will split into a couple rods, and they kind of bloom out. So when you have a very stable conditions where the crystal's growing, you'll tend to have very straight rods forming. Really pretty specimen here. Now this specimen here is a $110 specimen, again from Afghanistan, kunzite. Now the coloration, this pink color, comes from lithium. So lithium is actually what gives it the color, the pink coloration. Kind of a neat little snippet there. This next specimen I'm going to show, this is a $70 specimen. So we're getting a little cheaper now. Now this is a really pretty piece. Now it may be smaller, but it is very clear. I mean, take a look at that. That's like a block of ice. Yeah, see, look how pretty that is. And you can see right through it too. Yeah, these pieces that are really clear, it doesn't matter if it has pink in it or not. I just love the clarity. And whenever you have these kind of micro crystalline fractures inside, really gives a lot of surfaces for the light to reflect off of, so it's really pretty. Now, unlike a lot of specimens, like crystal specimens, you may notice, look at that fracturing there. That is conchoidal fracturing. So very, very common with a lot of silicate minerals. That's what quartz is. Quartz is a silicate mineral. But usually when you have microcrystalline fractures inside quartz, you usually have this light kind of shining off, this beautiful iridescence, like a little rainbow inside the crystal. With a lot of these, you don't tend to have that. That's because you have a lot of crystalline rods that are basically crystallized together. And so the light will go inside the crystal, but it will just travel through the crystal. So as you can see, there's still some light traveling through the crystal to the other sides, because you can obviously see my finger. But most of that light is going to just be channeled through, one side, like this side, for example. Just another cool little piece of information about these quartz specimens. All right, so I think I'm going to show a couple more of these and then move on to our next grouping. I'm going to show another kind of expensive piece. This is a $63 specimen, so we're getting a little cheaper here. Now this one's really pink. Look at the color in that. Now this is like classic for kunzite. When someone is thinking about kunzite, they're thinking about that, like this beautiful pink color change here. Yeah, this one is gorgeous. Now, obviously, you know, if you kind of already assume this, right, if the color comes from lithium being inside the crystal, then the more pink a crystal is, the piece of kunzite is, the more lithium it must have, and that is true. So the more pink your kunzite specimen is, the more lithium that you have inside of it, making it pink. Again, this is a $63 specimen here. This is a reminder, if you see something on the stream that you like and that you want, just drop a comment in the stream. So whether you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, just drop a comment, message us, and we'll get you set up. Alright, so I'm going to just show maybe 3 more pieces. This next piece is a $56 specimen, and this is a really pretty piece. It's maybe small, but the clarity is incomparable. I mean, take a look at that. You can even barely see the rods on this one. But take a look at those inclusions, right? It looks like you're looking down into the bottom of a crystal clear lake or something. And then you have this gorgeous kunzite druzy on, like, just on the outside, this outer crust. It's all sparkly and beautiful. Take a look at that sparkle, right? I mean, and also, too, the clarity. I mean, you can see right through that. Like, it's just crystal clear. It's like looking through a window. That's absolutely gorgeous. Now, again, this is a $56 specimen of kunzite from Afghanistan. Now, even color-wise, you can even see a tiny, tiny bit of pink on this end. So, I mean, it's just, this piece is phenomenal. I think this is probably one of my favorite pieces here that we have. Oh, don't worry, we're gonna get some more affordable stuff soon. Alright, our next final piece, something that's a bit more affordable. This is a $25 kunzite specimen. Take a look at that. Again, another beautiful, super clear specimen. Just like ice. I mean, look at that. Yeah, that's just gorgeous. Now, even notice that that reflection right there. I mean, just take a look at that. Just all those fractures, this reflecting light. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now, you even have a little bit of iridescence there, right? You got that micro fracture right there that's reflecting some light. That's really cool. You rarely see that with kunzite. That's really cool. All right, so we're going to move on to our next grouping of specimens. Looked at the kunzite, the malachite. Now we're going to look at some apophyllite. So apophyllite is one of those minerals that's really popular in the metaphysical community. That last specimen was $25. Alright, so all of our apophyllite specimens, these are very affordable. They're very cheap. and that's because they're very, very common, but they're very pretty. So apophyllite is called a zeolite mineral, and that is a name for a series or group of minerals that form in volcanic rock, specifically basalt. So you find them a lot in like places like the volcanic fields in Arizona, or more commonly in the Deccan Traps volcanics within India, where a lot of our specimens actually come from. A lot of these are from Mumbai, India. You can find them a lot in Iceland or Antarctica. Antarctica has a volcanic arc, so not many people know about that, but there's an active volcanic chain in Antarctica. Kind of cool. All right, so we're gonna start off here with some small apophyllite specimens. This guy is a $10 specimen. Again, these are all from India. Take a look at that. Now, apophyllite, the actual... No, okay, so I should kind of start off by saying that zeolite minerals, Z-E-O-L-I-T-E, these are all found together. So they're all very chemically similar. They all have aluminum in them, so we call these aluminosilicate minerals. And these minerals are all usually found within the same pocket, within the basalt. Just usually there's a pocket filled with just aluminum rich mineral water or something, and these guys just kind of crystallize out over time. You can even see that's actually a piece of the basalt there trapped within the crystal. Kind of neat. So oftentimes with these minerals, you'll see minerals like heulandite, or stilbite, or mesolite, or naturalite, and those are all zeolite minerals, and they're all found together. In fact, they're so chemically similar to one another that oftentimes, depending on the temperature and depending on the pressure where these are forming at, some minor change can make an apophyllite crystal just immediately transform or start growing into a stilbite crystal, which is completely different looking. Just really very fascinating stuff. So again, this is a $10 specimen of apophyllite. Now, apophyllite, the actual crystals are these guys right here, these kind of large white crystals. These are also very popular in the metaphysical community. They have a lot of the same attributes as quartz does. So very cool. Notice that this is a really kind of neat piece. You have this double terminated apophyllite crystal here. That's really cool. Now, the next piece that we're going to show, and again, these are all apophyllite clusters, and a customer of ours actually wanted us to go over these, so this is kind of for them, but also for you guys, in case you guys see something you like. Now, this next piece is an $11 specimen of apophyllite, and I really like this specimen here. This is really cool. You have this giant crystal, right? This big crystal of apophyllite, which is this white crystal here. And then you have these gorgeous stilbite blades growing out of it. And I think you might even find some heulandite in there. Now, all of these, again, remember, zeolite minerals. So they're all found together. And take a look at this. So notice how you have this like one kind of flat facet right here between the stilbite, which is this kind of salmon-colored mineral, and the apophyllite. That surface there, that is the exact surface, the moment where something changed in the crystal's formation, where it went from either stilbite first to apophyllite, or apophyllite to stilbite. So again, just really neat stuff. So these specimens where you have these a bunch of zeolite minerals together is just so cool. I mean, you can even see that sparkly druzy on there, and see if we can get the camera to focus on it. Yeah, look at that. That's really cool. You might even notice some sort of concentric kind of ring pattern here on the surface. and that is actually these very, very small, tiny stilbite crystals that are like starting to grow. So again, stilbite, it grows in a radial pattern, so circle, radial, and yeah, these guys are just absolutely gorgeous. And again, this specimen here is $11. The next one we're going to look at, this one's going to be, again, same price range. I mean, these are all very affordable pieces. We have some really massive clusters that are like about like this size, so maybe about a foot long, that kind of thing. And they are really pretty. But something that's really massive like that, you think, okay, well, it's hundreds of dollars. No, it's, you know, it's, again, this is a very common material, very common mineral. So they're going to be way cheaper. So one of our clusters, I think we're currently selling at like $50, like a big piece. So, I mean, think about this. This is $10, and then you have $50 specimen, massive. It's kind of a neat little comparison size-wise. Now, again, another apophyllite cluster. This is cool. It's just apophyllite, and just the way the light just catches it. I mean, you have some gorgeous inclusions in there. Really clear stuff. I really love this, you know, some of these crystal points here of the apophyllite. You have like, you know, one side that's really, really clear, and then the center is kind of shady. I kind of like that effect. That's really cool. Now, size-wise, these are all about like, you know, a 25-cent piece in diameter. So about an inch in diameter. Just look at the clarity in that. I like this one. This one's really pretty. Now, again, this is a $12 specimen. $12 for this piece. Next, we're going to up the ante and go up a little bit. So this is a $19 specimen, but it's a bit bigger. And it's a mesolite cluster, but on top of it, you have beautiful apophyllite crystals growing out of it. Really, really cool. Now, even the coloration here is really cool. Look at that. You have that kind of greenish color in there. Now, the green is actually coming from naturalite. Naturalite is green, and that's another zeolite mineral. And notice how you have the apophyllite clusters or crystals. They have this kind of like pyramid point shape to the top of the point, the flat top. But naturalite crystals actually have much more of a stubby, flat top and kind of, you know, sliced off corners, just crystal structure-wise. So your naturalite crystals, that's actually one little naturalite crystal right there, and these are your apophyllite crystals. Kind of looks like a heart, doesn't it? It's really cool. And so your naturalite is going to be green, right? So that, again, same minerals, or so I should say different minerals, very chemically similar to one another. They all grow within, on top of one another. It's just another very cool example of that. And this kind of snowball, kind of cool cluster down here, that is mesolite. Now again, this is a $19 specimen. Now, you know, even though these are very common minerals, right, they are relatively uncommon on the market, meaning not a lot of people are selling them, which is kind of a shame, I think. So, you know, oftentimes if you go into a crystal shop, nobody's really going to have apophyllite or stilbite or mesolite, naturalite even. There's even a more rare zeolite mineral that's quite expensive called cavenzite, which is a beautiful, like, azure blue color. All right, we're going to move on to our next apophyllite specimen. We're going to get a bit bigger here. Now, this is a really pretty piece. This is a $40 specimen. This is actually from all of these, actually, except for... No, actually, all of them are from our fine mineral specimen collection. So these have all passed a certain number of qualifications to be considered a fine mineral specimen. These are all collector's specimens. You can use them for whatever you want. Metaphysical stuff, collection purposes, cool piece to put on your shelf. But these are all, high quality specimens, and they've been graded and rated. So now this is a really pretty apophyllite specimen. Again, a $40 specimen here. Take a look at all of those crystal points. They're all very clear, very sparkly. And look at that, you even have the parent rock here. That is the basalt. Look at that. So I really love these specimens. They're a bit larger, and you can actually, the basalt usually is carved and flattened on one side, so you can easily just kind of put it, on a shelf or a surface somewhere. So this is just really cool. Yeah, take a look at that. Just the coloration in there. So I really love these specimens where you have it's super clear, and you have a microcrystalline fracture inside, and then you have light reflecting off of them. I mean, it's just looking looking at, again, like ice or water. It's really beautiful. So Nick, take a look at here. You have these apophyllite crystals here, right? You have this one large apophyllite crystal right here, kind of embedded within the specimen. But then you have this kind of flat, kind of stubby specimen. Now, again, some apophyllite crystals will actually look like that, but this is again, one of those transitionary minerals where it's kind of naturalite, but kind of not. You can even see some green, kind of greenish, drabby coloration here as well. So again, it's kind of like that transition, right? Very chemically similar minerals all forming together. That's really pretty. I mean, look, it's like a mirror. Just this bottom crystal right here. Absolutely gorgeous. So pretty. All right, again, this is a $40 specimen of apophyllite. We're going to move on to our next grouping of specimens. And as a reminder, if you guys see something on the stream that you like, drop a comment in the comments section. Tell us in chat, message us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. If you want that specimen that you see, just let us know. All right, this is a $12 specimen. This is just another really pretty specimen here. Just some more apophyllite. Got this large crystal here with a lot of these tiny ones. And just the clarity here too, right? I mean, they're so clear. Yeah, this is just gorgeous. Yeah, again, all these really clear apophyllite crystals are just really pretty. I just love them. All right, we're going to show one last apophyllite cluster before we move on to our next grouping here. Now, this is a really, really pretty specimen here. This is another $12 specimen. And yeah, I think it might be one of my new favorites. Again, kind of have these beautiful heart-shaped minerals. Something we need more of. Lots of love, right? Especially in times like these. Take a look at the clarity in these. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Now these specimens here, I really like these. Again, $12. Now, to give you a price comparison, at another, at a metaphysical shop or crystal shop somewhere, your apophyllite clusters, they're going to be, 3, 4, 5 times as much, which is really, unfair. So, again, this is another fact. We are a direct from the mine source, so we don't deal with a lot of middlemen. So we are we actually can keep the price low for you guys, just about. the wholesale, which is what we like to do. Take a look at that. Wow. Okay, yeah. Just look at the coloration there. That gorgeous light refracting. Oh man, that is really pretty. It's like a whole nother world in there, you know? Absolutely gorgeous. Yep, $12. Yeah, and it's kind of neat too, the geologic setting that they come in. Oh, all right. Looks like it's heading out. So a lot of these minerals, these zeolite minerals here from India, they're found, again, in the Deccan Traps basalt. And kind of an interesting story about the Deccan Traps basalt before I move on to our next grouping. So the Deccan Traps basalt, it's most commonly associated with the volcanics that were happening around the time that the dinosaurs all died. Right. In fact, we're going to move on to some really cool dinosaur specimens here that are over 60 billion years old. So, the Deccan Traps basalt, I always like to kind of think about it this way. If the asteroid didn't hit the Earth and kill the dinosaurs off, the volcanism on Earth would have. In fact, there was a bunch of other things going on at that time too. Like, for example, you had this one dinosaur that was a herbivore and eating literally this one kind of common tree that was like just on the continent of Pangaea, just eating it. A lot back then, there were a lot of cycads, which were very common, and these cycads are being just engorged by these dinosaurs, and all the herbivores started eating them up, and there was already starting to be a drop in oxygen levels due to the fact that these dinosaurs were eating up all the plants, all this one tree. So if it wasn't for the asteroid, they would have suffocated because of the lack of oxygen in the air, or the volcanism that was going on at that time. Pangaea was breaking apart, and you had all the supercontinents splitting up. So what ended up happening was you had a lot of volcanoes, right? Lots of volcanism forcing the continents to break apart and split up. And there was a ton of volcanism. In fact, the Deccan Traps volcanics, they were insane. There's layers of those volcanics that are like over a mile thick, just a flood basalts. Flood basalts. Flood basalts, that's something we don't really see in this era of Earth's history, but just imagine a big ocean of lava. A big ocean, just an ocean of lava. Just coming out of the Earth. Just one day, just started spewing out of the Earth. So that was happening like all over the place, and the Deccan Traps volcanics were a part of that. In fact, there's a lot of volcanic regions that are from that period, and those volcanoes were releasing things like sulfuric, gas and very toxic gases into the atmosphere that would have surely suffocated and killed the dinosaurs. But no, it was the asteroid that hit the planet, and that really triggered the collapse of the era of dinosaurs. So, without further ado, we're going to look at this gorgeous, really pretty, really cool display box that we have put together. This is something like we'd like to call the Surf and Turf collection, because we have a little bit of the ocean, a little bit of the land, all in one. This is for fossil lovers, fossil collectors. Let's see if I can actually fit this in here. I think I can. Oh my god, I actually can. That's really cool. All right, so this is what we got here. We have this gorgeous, really cool display box, right? This is a $185 display, and on the top here, we have this gorgeous, really high quality Mosasaurus tooth. This is 66 million years old. Now, the Mosasaurus, imagine a mix between a shark and an alligator. That's kind of an artist's illustration of what the Mosasaurus looked like. They were about 4 school buses in length and about 2 to 3 wide. They were absolutely massive. Again, imagine the mix of a shark and an alligator, right? Just really scary. Something kind of cool about the Mosasaurus. The Mosasaurus, to paleontologists, is considered the most efficient predator in Earth's history. They were so efficient at killing things that they actually almost drove themselves to extinction before the asteroid again hit the planet and killed them off. So they were so efficient at killing things that they killed pretty much all the prey in the ocean. They killed everything. Sharks, they killed megalodons, they killed all sorts of things. And they started killing off everything. And they started running out of food because they killed off everything. Again, this is, we humans, so small and insignificant. We cannot affect the planet, right? No, wrong. We can affect the planet in many different ways. Climate change, for example. Dinosaurs were some of the first creatures, I shouldn't say the first, but they were some of the most influential creatures to change the planet, the surface of the planet. So whether it was eating a bunch of plants and lowering oxygen levels because of that, or killing off all of the smaller ocean predators in the sea, or prey or predators, and running out of food. But again, they started running out of food, so these Mosasaurus, they started killing themselves. They started killing other Mosasaurus for food. So if it wasn't, again, for the asteroid that killed them all off, they would have just eaten themselves to death. Kind of cool. Kind of metal. So again, these guys are scary. Very cool. And look at the size of that tooth. This is my hand. Imagine a set of a couple hundred chomping down on something. Now, they would shed these all the time, and this is just the cap of the tooth, right? The actual length of the tooth is probably about maybe 2 or 3 times as long as this. So just kind of keep that in mind. So this is the surf side of it, just like surf and turf. We got a surf and turf burrito. We got a surf and turf fossil set here. So this is the surf side. Then we have this really cool turf side, right? Now, this is really neat. This is a Therizinosaurus claw. This is about 70 million years old. And the Therizinosaurus was a omnivore, but it would actually eat a lot of plants, more plants than it did meat. But it would actually have these long claws, and they would shred up vegetation with them. And that's what paleontologists think that they ate. They ate a lot of vegetation, leaves, plants, that kind of thing. And so they would use them almost like big shears or garden clippers to kind of clip things off of trees and plants and bushes and eat them. Kind of a neat little thing. Take a look at the size here of this claw. So again, that's kind of an artist's illustration. Now, thinking about the length of this claw and the size of that creature, this Therizinosaurus generally would be about almost twice the height of a human being. So at like 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet. So you're talking about a, 10 to 12 foot tall creature with very long, sharp, scythe-like claws. Yes, original Edward Scissorhands. That's right. But yeah, they definitely would probably use those claws to defend themselves. So very kind of scary looking. But, again, we kind of take a zoom out here, right? So again, the Mosasaurus and the Therizinosaurus, they were both walking around or swimming around, whatever. They were both on the planet about the same time. These guys, the fossil specimens themselves there's a bit of a range with how old they are. But it's just kind of really, really neat to kind of see, you have, both these two scary kind of creatures roaming around on the planet. And just to think about how things have changed, right? You know, just evolution in general. You know, the Mosasaurus as a creature was massive. Nowadays, we don't see a lot of really massive creatures anymore, except for like whales. But again, it's kind of a very cool set. This would be great for like a fossil collector. This would be like a great Christmas gift for somebody that's really into dinosaurs, or somebody who's like a kid that's really into Jurassic Park. So just a really cool set. Again, this is a $185 display box. Very cool stuff. All right, we're gonna move on to our next grouping of specimens here. Let's see if I can very carefully get this out of here. Now, me personally, I love fossils. I love all sorts of things like that. I love geologic history. I think it's really humbling to really think about geologic time. You know, it's one of those things that I'm very passionate about. I think it's really cool. It's very, very humbling to think that everything has been around for so long. Even our universe in general. So, I mean, I'm going to school to be a planetary geologist, so, you know, my big thing is planet formation and the makeup of other planets, solar system, the universe, bodies in space, like asteroids and comets. All right, so I think we're going to go over some cut points. Now, all of these are really cool. These are all rough specimens that have been cut into polished points. I kind of like these. It kind of gives life to specimens that otherwise wouldn't be, you know, very pretty. So you have a lot of rough pieces of quartz or fluorite, calcite, whatever, and they're massive, right? And they're not really that pretty just on their own, but if you cut them and shape them and polish all the sides, they can make very nice display pieces. So a lot of these are great for meditation, great for just decoration, for display, for all sorts of things. So whether you just think they're pretty or you want to use it in your altar or your ritual space, this is what they're kind of like used for. They're great for all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm going to start off by showing just each different type of point that we have. So I'm going to start off with these amethyst points. Again, these are all cut points. The price really kind of ranges a bit. This is a $29 specimen. I think this is really neat. In fact, I just kind of noticed something about this specimen. Again, whenever I look at anything, it's like I notice something new. So again, a $29 specimen. But take a look at this. You know, obviously we can see it's amethyst, right? But the amethyst, the purple little bit in there, that is actually a phantom. And if we look at it very closely, we can even see the phantom in there, right? We can even see the phantom point in there, kind of peering through. That's actually its own point. That is really cool. I've never noticed that before about this. But again, these are really nice. These are nice pieces to have on your coffee table, on your shelf. Very pretty. But yeah, I just never noticed that that phantom. Usually, a lot of our specimens that have phantoms in them, like for example this one, I don't really notice until I take a really good look at them. And this is really nice. I mean, you have this beautiful, like, I mean, it's almost like you have this really pretty purple, iron-rich amethyst point in the middle, and then you have this gorgeous kind of like really crystal clear amethyst just surrounding it. Just really neat. Now, oftentimes, with a lot of our amethyst points, there's a little bit of what we call ametrine. Ametrine is a type of gemstone, and now what gives amethyst its color is the same thing that gives citrine, which is yellow or orange, its color, and that's iron. So depending on kind of iron ion that's inside the crystal, that determines the color, and that is all determined by temperature. So temperature or pressure. So depending on the temperature or pressure, you could have amethyst, purple amethyst. And if that changes very, very, very slightly, you could have citrine. So if you have a crystal that's growing at the temperature and right at that threshold, what can happen is if the temperature lowers just a little bit, it'll start turning into citrine just for a split second or for a long second. And then it'll go back into amethyst, or vice versa. So this next amethyst specimen actually has a bit of ametrine in it. So this is a $28 amethyst cut point. And you may notice that kind of these orange striations here, right? That is actually citrine. Now, when the citrine and the amethyst are right up together, that is called ametrine. So I guess you could call this an ametrine point. I guess that would be the proper term for it. But again, this is really, really pretty stuff. Rough, it would have looked like a piece of quartz. Like, imagine if you took a Pyrex cooking bowl and broke it up into a bunch of pieces. Imagine a broken up piece of a Pyrex bowl. That's probably what this looked like, something kind of similar to that. So when you cut it up and polish it up real nice, you can give new life to a beautiful stone that otherwise might have looked kind of rough around the edges. And just take a look at that coloration there. So you have that purple, and then look at that. That's a really gorgeous view here. So you even have some phantoms in there. See those lines in the crystal? So those are those growth lines, right? Those are phantoms. And that is really neat. That is the citrine right there. This is ametrine. So very neat specimen. And again, this is a fairly decently sized specimen. You could put this on your shelf at home, that kind of thing. Yeah, I really like this one. This is gorgeous. Again, this is a $28 specimen, and this is an ametrine point. Really pretty. No, you cannot. You do not have enough amethyst. That is true. Alright, so our next grouping here, we got some more cut points. These are all tourmalated quartz points. Now, tourmalated, meaning tourmaline, right? We got rods of black tourmaline running through this quartz. So this kind of quartz, this is commonly found in pegmatites. The tourmaline will actually grow it'll start growing and orient itself to the point of coolness and the hottest point. So typically a pluton or a pegmatite, it's a big kind of underground bubble of magma that's slowly cooling over the course of millions of years. And oftentimes what you'll have quartz, which is, a silicate mineral, start forming and crystallizing. And within the quartz, you'll have little rods of tourmaline, black tourmaline or pink tourmaline, or whatever kind of tourmaline. And the tourmaline rods will orient themselves to the one direction pointing to the point that's coolest and the point that's the hottest. So typically that's the center. The center of the pluton or pegmatite is going to be the hottest, and the outer crust, that's where it's cooling. Imagine like a big globe cooling from the outside in, or like a pie, right, being heated from the outside in. So the outside point is the coldest point of the pluton, and the inside is the hottest point. So oftentimes you'll see them all kind of pointing in a certain direction. That's pretty normal. So it looks like we have two points here of direction. We got rods that are oriented this way, and then rods that are oriented the other way. So that can happen when you have just a pluton moving through the earth and kind of cooling very slowly. Those adjustments can make that happen, or sometimes you can have crystallized material and that can move itself and then recrystallize and reorient itself. So this is a $45 specimen, I believe. Yep, $45. Now, black tourmaline, metaphysically speaking, is a very protective stone. So it's just something, if you are kind of, wanting to diffuse negative energy around you or in your home, you can have black tourmaline, and black tourmaline will just completely diffuse that negative energy. And of course, quartz, right? Very powerful, energetic stone, very great for channeling energy. So again, just kind of a good combo here. These are really pretty. They kind of remind me of like a zebra, right? Like zebra stripes or something. Now I really like these specimens. Geologically speaking, again, they're very fascinating. A lot of this kind of material, this is classic material to see whenever you're looking for pink quartz, for example, or tourmaline. It's just, this is very common for me to see. So, generally, if I'm out mining somewhere, right, I can just tell by either the color of the soil, the type of crystals that I'm finding, the way they're oriented, the shape of the mountains, the shape of the layers, whether they're, anticlinal or synclinal, meaning that they're, compressed or warped of some kind. If there's a fault or whatever I see in the landscape, basically, I can start piecing it together a story, like a geologic story of how the land came to be that way. Over the course of my education, it's just become more and more easy to do that. So it's, I find it absolutely fascinating. So our next point we're going to look at, and again, another tourmalated quartz piece. This is really pretty. It's just slightly more translucent, and I think that's kind of where we're heading right here. We're going to be heading from opaque to translucent. So this is a bit more translucent. This is a $40 specimen. It's a little bit cheaper. And just look at the clarity. You can see a lot more through it. This part right here, that's really cool. A lot of these tourmalated quartz points, they almost look like the tourmaline almost looks like splinters, right? They're like little splintery kind of spiderweb-like structures within the quartz. I always thought that's kind of a neat display, of just crystals. There's a mineral called rutile, so that generally forms like this in quartz. So we call that rutilated quartz. And that stuff is very fibrous and very thin, so the rods will tend to grow very, very thin structures, and it will look like little tiny just splinters or spider webs running through the crystal point. Again, really, really cool. So again, this is a $40 specimen. Very, very pretty stuff. Our next specimen that we're going to show, our last tourmalated quartz specimen. This is a $43 specimen, but it's very clear. It's probably the most clear out of all of them. Take a look at this beauty. Wow. I think this is really cool. I love seeing this because it's almost like the tourmaline crystals are just suspended within the quartz. I think that's really neat. Every single angle is just really pretty here. See if I can kind of get a good rotation here. See if I can get the camera to focus. Come on, camera. There we go. It's really pretty stuff. Again, this is a $43 specimen. Probably the clearest tourmalated quartz specimen that we have. And look at those thin rods of tourmaline. That's really cool. Alright, so we're going to move on to our next grouping here. So that was our tourmalated grouping that we have. Next, we're going to look at some be some like a variety of colors here. We're gonna look at some calcite first. This is a calcite cut point. We kind of like to call this an obelisk. So this is a yellow calcite point. Again, this is a really cool material. Calcite, almost all the calcite that you're going to find on the market generally is going to come from either the Middle East or Mexico. But more often it's going to come from Mexico. Almost all your calcite is going to come from Mexico. So generally, like, okay, calcite. Let's just talk about that for a second. Calcite is an evaporate mineral. So that means that you have water present and the water is evaporating. So this water is mineral rich, and when it evaporates, it becomes highly salinated and saturated with minerals. These minerals precipitate out and form like a little crust layer of mineral, so like a mineral layer once the water is evaporated, similar to that of rock salt. So calcite, calcium carbonate, is a mineral where you have calcium, dissolved calcium present. So it could be in the form of shells, right? So shells have calcium. And then you have carbonate, so you have carbon dioxide from either the atmosphere or dissolved in the water. So when the water evaporates, it leaves behind calcite. Now, depending on what kind of impurities are around, like maybe you have a iron deposit or a chromium deposit or lithium deposit, whatever is around in the surrounding area, wherever the runoff is coming from, that will alter the crystal in some way. So for calcite, for example, that will just basically just change the color. So yellow calcite has some iron in it that will kind of determine the color, right? So if we have some iron oxide, that's going to be a little reddish or yellow or orange. So we have trace amounts of iron in this calcite. Now, being an evaporate mineral, right, we need water evaporating to have this mineral form, and where this is found, this material is found outside of Mexico City, and that whole area used to be a part of a seaway. It was all underwater at one point in time, and now it's the waters have receded since we're in an ice age. So that whole area over the course of hundreds of millions of years has been above water, underwater, above water, underwater, and depending on the geologic setting, depending on where the water is coming from, each layer of calcite, when you've had a regressive period of the sea, meaning that the sea levels have dropped, you'd have this period of time where water was coming from one mountain compared to another. Maybe that mountain had chromium or lithium, and then the other mountain had iron. So again, depending on where the water was coming from, it left behind a layer of calcite that was a specific color for that period of time. So we have things like, yellow calcite, and then the water came back out, and then you have green calcite, and then same thing happened, then you have blue calcite, purple calcite, yellow calcite, red calcite. Every color that you can imagine, you can find outside of Mexico City in that whole area. All within the same area, like piled on top of each other. It's like a layer cake of calcite. A very cool kind of like unique thing about that area. You don't see that a lot in any other place on the planet. So yeah, and all of that within this beautiful tiny little calcite point. $24 from Mexico, Durango, Mexico. Yeah, it's very summerish. Yes. It's not summer yet, but almost there. All right, so our next obelisk point we're going to look at, I guess we'll go from size. That was our largest obelisk that we're showing today. Our next one is going to be a fluorite obelisk, and this is also from Mexico. This is from Durango, Mexico. It's a $14 specimen. And take a look at the structure in that. I love seeing the fluorite cut in this way. So fluorite grows in cells, like cellular rods that will bloom out. And most people will cut fluorite across these cells. So when they do that, you can actually see these beautiful layers, right? You know, all these different colors. So we got purples and blues and greens, but I love it when it's cut this way. So it's cut across the cells, so you can see each individual cell. It almost looks like a little window or like an ocean you're looking into. I love that. But just take a look at the clarity here. We got some pretty clear stuff here. So it lets a lot of light through. Hey, yeah, seriously, if I won the lottery, I'd buy like all the rocks. You know what? I think if I won the lottery, I would probably buy like one of those spots on Elon Musk's, you know, space trips to Mars. I would totally do that. I think they're like, he wants to make it what? To move to Mars. I think last I looked, the price he wants to have for people to move would be like around $100,000 or $200,000. So as much as like a house or something. I would totally do it. If I won the lottery, yeah, I'd be moving to Mars. I don't care if I die. I mean, I think that would be awesome. Planetary geologist here, moving to Mars? Whew, that would be great. That's like a dream come true. Aww. Yeah, fluorite is a beautiful mineral. It's very colorful. And oftentimes, like some of our mineral specimens of fluorite, oh my gosh, like the cubic structures that it forms are just beautiful. So, yeah, again, this is another really pretty specimen. And $14. Very cool. All right, our next obelisk is this beautiful pink quartz obelisk. It's very tiny, very cute. Look at that, $16, this little baby. So it's kind of a, you know, a bit smaller, but this is nice for like, you know, a pocket-sized piece of pink quartz if you want to take it around with you, put it in your travel rock altar or something. So $16 for this beautiful specimen of pink quartz. Kind of cute. Now, clarity-wise, we're not really looking at the clarity because it's clearly not that clear. That's kind of funny. So, but you know, color-wise, that's what we're looking at, right? Most pink quartz is going to be pretty opaque, but color-wise is what we're looking at. We're looking at that beautiful pink color. The more pink the crystal is, the more valuable it is. So that's what determines the price for a lot of pink quartz around the world. Very cool. All right, so we're going to look at a couple more points here. I'm going to kind of blast through these since I want to kind of get to all the other stuff we have. This is some chlorite quartz. So this is another shaped point. Now, chlorite quartz has chlorite in it, and chlorite is typically green. This is a really pretty point here. I really like this one. It's $48. Take a look at just the inclusions in that. Now, what I really like about chlorite quartz as well. Now, what's again, this point here, the point itself was a bit rough, but it's been polished. So obviously the bottom here has been cut, but we can actually see some phantoms in here. So the nice thing about chlorite quartz, right, is that you have these beautiful little, like a dusting almost of chlorite crystals on top of the crystal. And then what happens is that will crystallize over and gets trapped inside. So that, again, that's the phantom, right? Gives the phantom effect. So the chlorite itself gets trapped in there, and we can even see these beautiful little phantoms in there that are just outlined, right? So each one of those lines that you see in there, that is a phantom, a chlorite quartz phantom. So those are little chlorite crystals that are just outlining the shape of the crystal point. This is really cool. I really like these phantoms in here. I think that's really cool to see. In the metaphysical community, it's believed that the phantoms also give, you know, some higher effects to the specimen as well. Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. I am for sure definitely passionate about this. Yeah. No, I love this stuff. Now, next, we're going to look at this beautiful piece of quartz here. This is another shaped point. And I'm just going to say something about quartz. So, one way to determine if quartz is real or not is if whatever is behind it is magnified. So, if I'm looking at a specimen like this, and if my finger appeared bigger than it actually was, then that would mean that the specimen is glass. But if it was not magnified, meaning that it looked just like a window, like a clear window into the other side, so my finger was not bigger, that would mean that it's actually quartz. So glass will actually magnify what is behind it, and quartz does not magnify what's behind it. So whenever you're at a shop and you're looking at a piece of quartz, you want to look for that. So put it, over text or something and take a look. See if it does that. Now this is a really cool kind of like specimen. This is like a nice little, altarpiece or desk piece. Very beautiful, very clear. You got some microcrystalline fractures in here. Definitely nice for those refractive light rays, right? Yeah, I really like this piece. Really pretty. And again, $24 for this piece. Not bad. All right, so this next specimen we're going to look at, this is kind of interesting. This is a piece of smelt quartz. So smelt quartz is smelt quartz is kind of interesting. So it's generally made and found in China and parts of Asia. And historically speaking, smelt quartz is used a lot in like Buddhist or Taoist practices. It's a very spiritual stone. So smelt quartz, think of the word, right? Smelt. So to smelt something means that you are melting it down and refining it, right? So this was made by taking quartz crystals, just rough pieces of quartz that are mined, right? And melting them down and mixing them with, some kind of flux or some sort of, metal mixture or some kind of compound to change the color. And when it cools, it creates this kind of beautiful, kind of like cottony sort of looking quartz. We have a couple different kinds of smelt quartz here, but the different colors that are in the smelt quartz kind of, I guess, are supposed to embody certain spiritual aspects of Taoism or Buddhism. And so a lot of them are used in like altar pieces or, pieces at home, that kind of thing, for spiritual reasons. So the process by how it's made is kind of neat, right? So we talked about, quartz, how to determine whether something's glass or not. So when you melt down sand, for example, to make glass, you're melting down silica, silica pieces, like little granules. So when you're melting down pieces of quartz, it's like melting down large little sand granules. So this is just basically you're recrystallizing the quartz out. So technically, by technicality, this is considered glass. So kind of a neat thing. And I even like maybe notice some magnification here as well. So really kind of a neat little thing. Also too, for real quartz pieces, you can, if you look inside, there won't be any air bubbles. Smelt quartz does have air bubbles because it's been melted and refined. Same thing with glass. Glass will have air bubbles within it as well. So, but doesn't mean it's not, you know, any less cool. So, but yeah, this is just another piece of smelt quartz, clear smelt quartz, and it's kind of cut into this double terminated shape. So again, double terminations in the metaphysical community just make it better for channeling energy. So each point is great for channeling energy. In nature, double terminations are just really, really rare to see. So yeah, just kind of a neat display. All right, so next we're going to look at our last two final cut points. This is a point of smoky quartz, and it's really pretty. This point is actually like, I think it has some kind of phantom in it. So we'll take a look here. So smoky quartz, right? Smoky quartz is smoky or dark, mainly because of irradiation. So you have radiation in the form of heat or sunlight, like ultraviolet, for example. And when you expose a crystal like quartz to, you know, heat, if you irradiate it, you can actually cook the crystal. And when you cook it, it will change it chemically. And when you change it chemically, it'll change color often. So, for example, when you cook or irradiate quartz, so either underground because of pressure and heat from the inner earth, or man-made smoky quartz, you can do that too. The quartz will actually start to turn a dark burnt color, almost like you're burning it, right? It's kind of cool. Now that is really cool. Look at that color change there. Boom, boom. I think that's really neat. Yeah, that's really cool. So again, that's from that irradiation, right? And notice too, that little line in there, that is a little phantom in there of some kind. So again, we're talking about a rough piece of smoky quartz that has been cut. So it's been cut, right? It was a rough point at some point, or a rough piece. And when this crystal was forming, let's see if I can orient it the appropriate way. When it was forming, it actually had a point here. You can actually see it. The tip of the point there is this little clear section right here. You can even see the outline of a former point that was growing in this direction. And so originally the crystal was oriented in this direction. And then when it was rough, it was probably came out of a rough vein of some kind. It was then cut to be oriented this way. So kind of neat little history of the stone. I like smoky quartz. I think smoky quartz like this that is really kind of faint. You can kind of, it's, smoky, so faintly smoky, I guess. I think it's kind of neat. It's really sort of mysterious. And again, good price for a smoky quartz point. Usually smoky quartz is pretty expensive. This is $14. And then again, that's mainly because it's a cut point. It was rough, so it's not natural. Again, a very cool piece. So next, finally, we're going to look at this next cut point. This is really cool. This was actually a kind of a neat display. So we have a rough piece of quartz, and it was roughed up, basically like a big ball or cobble piece of quartz, and then one side was kept rough, and the rest was cut and polished. And whenever you do that, you leave a surface for the light to reflect off of, and that is exactly what we have here. We have this really pretty point here. So notice on the back side, it's all rough. So again, we're talking about, giving new life to a otherwise not so pretty stone. So from the outside, it was kind of rough and dirty and grimy, and then it was cut to reveal this gorgeous inner beauty. Definitely the epitome of a diamond in the rough, right? So these are really cool. This is a $45 specimen. And just looking at that, I mean, so again, having another surface for the light to reflect off of, this is basically like a backboard, right? A backdrop, a curtain, that the light can reflect off of. Kind of gives a kind of a unique little perspective, or you know, neat little display for the specimen itself. Let's take a little close look here. That's really cool. Yeah, I really like this one. All right, so next we're gonna move on to some more cool pieces here. We got all sorts of stuff. And just to kind of give a heads up here, we're kind of a little bit past our halfway point for the stream this weekend. So again, we're going to be streaming every Sunday during the pandemic from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're at almost 2 p.m. So we'll probably stop around 3-ish Pacific Standard Time. Just a heads up. So next we're going to look at some smoky quartz, and we got 3 smoky quartz specimens here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the cheapest first and then end with the most expensive. So this is our cheapest one we have on display right now. This is a $38 specimen of smoky quartz. This is a little cluster. Take a look at that. That's really cool. $38 for this specimen. Let's take a closer look here for Cam 2. Look at that. Wow. Now, all of our natural smoky quartz points and clear quartz points, I should say, probably almost all of them, come from Arkansas, from the Coleman mine. It's a world-famous quartz mine. Some of the best quality quartz in the world comes from the Coleman mine in Arkansas. This is no exception. Just another absolutely gorgeous piece of history here. And this Coleman quartz mine is really neat. They actually can find quartz clusters the size of a small 4-door sedan. Think about that. So like 12, 15 feet long, 8 feet across. They're literally lifting these things out with cranes, padded with the mattresses. It's absolutely insane. So this is just a little piece of that. They have a couple smoky quartz pockets that they pick from, and so the smoky quartz pieces, they're relatively smaller compared to some of their clear quartz specimens. But again, this is just so beautiful. Let's take a closer look here at some of these points. You could just get lost in this, right? It's like a little city, just looking at that. All these little spires, these little points here. And a lot of them have little microcrystalline fractures, so you got some of that light refraction, some of those rainbows in there. Like that one right there, that's really cool. Size-wise, we're talking about, a fairly decent size here. So about palm-sized. Now this would be a pretty piece for either an altar or putting just on your shelf somewhere, honestly. Just a really gorgeous display here. Alright, we're going to move on to our next smoky quartz specimen. Now, again, that was a $38 specimen from Arkansas, from the Coleman mine. Next, we're going to look at this little smoky quartz cluster. This is really neat. This is like a quad or penta cluster here. So a lot of the smoky quartz, just the quartz in general from the Coleman mine, is really high quality. And many of the points have like beautiful little drusies on them. So tiny little crystals growing out of them. So this one's actually kind of cool in that regard. I mean, take a look at how black, how dark that is. That's really cool. Then take a look at those tiny little drusies on there. That's really pretty. So this would be, again, another cool piece just to put in your house somewhere. This is a $42 specimen, so not that bad for smoky quartz. Now, smoky quartz in general is going to be a bit more expensive than compared to regular quartz, just because of its comparative rarity. And the smoky quartz from the Coleman mine is just so striking. You got this gorgeous like jet black, right, on this gorgeous white quartz matrix. Very neat. So next we're going to look at a much larger smoky quartz specimen to give you a little taste of how massive their specimens can be. Now this one is really cool. I really like this specimen. It's really cool. It's a great specimen to kind of hold. Now this is a $104 specimen. And you'll see why. Take a look at this. This is a massive smoky quartz cluster. 3 main points here. These are really cool. Yeah, actually, talking about fish tanks, we actually got quite a bit of tumble stones that would be safe for fish tanks. Any evaporate minerals probably wouldn't survive in the fish tanks because it's, they would probably dissolve in the water. But a lot of, actually, most of our specimens would be okay for that kind of thing. Take a look at this. I really like just these growth lines here. I think there's a really good angle here that kind of displayed it well. Yeah, take a look at that. So this is the inner root of the crystal. And we can see those little striations there, right? Those are those growth lines. Again, just, practice makes perfect. Taking a look at all these things. Oh, man, just look at that. So smoky quartz, metaphysically speaking, really good for repelling negative energy. Really good for protection. One of those classic stones, metaphysically, for that. And again, just as a reminder too, geologically speaking, it's dark like this because it's been irradiated. So you either have the radiation from the sun causing it, but most often, almost always, it's going to be the heat from the inner earth creating that smoky coloration. So the heat itself will actually cook the stone. Yes, Subscreature, if you want, you can actually go on our website, midgardmercantile.com, and we got like all of our tumbled stones up right now. And just take a look at them. Almost all of them should be okay. If there's any that aren't okay, what we'll do is we'll just tell you. So most of them are going to be okay. Oh, just take a look at that. I love these little like heart-shaped clusters. Look at that. Every single angle. Oh, it's a heart here. We got a heart here. Kind of neat. All right, again, $104 for the specimen. We move on to our next grouping here. So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of look at some of these amethyst clusters. These are pretty massive as well. These are all from Brazil, and in fact I think it's 98% of all amethyst on the market is actually from Brazil. They have a lot of deposits of amethyst there, and amethyst, what gives it the color again is iron, right? And an iron rich rock would be basalt, maybe. So basalt has a lot of heavy minerals and heavy elements inside of it, very magnesium rich, very manganese rich, dark minerals, so lots of iron. And so you have a lot of amethyst forming in volcanic rocks. In fact, that's usually where it's found. Same thing with citrine as well. So this amethyst cluster here is $64, and for its size, very affordable. Take a look at this massive piece here. Now again, we actually have some beautiful, large, massive cathedrals, which is what we call just a big, giant amethyst geode. That's kind of like a colloquial name for them. You can actually, in nature, you can have these being any size you can imagine. It's basically like a little cavern or a crystal cave, if you think about it. So, give you an example of the largest one that I've seen with my own eyes. Again, there's some that are, absolutely massive. The largest one I've ever seen was about 15 to 16 feet tall, and about 3 to 4 feet wide. That's pretty massive. So, and oftentimes these geodes are cut in halves. So you have two halves that will be going together, and absolutely gorgeous. And oftentimes, again, with most crystal specimens, you're going to have phantoms, right? So all of our amethysts, in fact, have phantoms in them. So you can even see some of that phantom going on right through there. So take a look at this. Take a close look at some of the crystals here. So see along the edges of each facet, you see like a dark line. Those are those phantoms, right? Same thing with this one up here. What's nice too is that it's flattened on the bottom, so you can actually stand it up. So this is great for a shelf display, at home. This piece is $64. So again, being like a massive piece like this, right? This is really affordable. And also, too, look at this, a neat little natural display here. If we look at this from the side, you can kind of see this wavy little chalcedony, this banded chalcedony on the outside of the outer crust, I should say, of the geode. That's definitely common. And this dark material here is that basalt layer. Now, oftentimes when these are being prepared, you're talking about a mine in Brazil that's mining hard basalt, hard rock, with a lot of primitive tools. So like sledgehammers, right? You're whacking away at this stuff. And oftentimes when a geode is revealed, it's very unstable. So each individual crystal actually helps hold the whole thing together. And so once you puncture that, it'll start to crumble or fall apart. So oftentimes these large clusters, to preserve them, a layer of cement will actually be spread out and covered on the outside coating. Every single amethyst geode or cathedral you find will have this. It's very common. And that's just to keep it together from falling apart. But again, if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have something so beautiful like this. It's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, well, we will put it aside for if you want. We also have one more amethyst cluster here, which is also $64, if you want to take a look at this first. So again, this is $64 for this beautiful amethyst cluster here. Our next amethyst cluster that we're going to show, again, really pretty. A different bit, differently displayed. So this one actually has no flattened edges, but it actually has these linear sides that can actually be, the crystal can rest on. This one's really pretty. A lot of tiny points instead of large points. To give you an idea of the difference, right? The larger the point is, the longer it took to form. So those ones with the larger points are more rare than the ones with smaller points. Each point has to take a long time to form. And also that also has to do with, pressure and temperature, changes as well. So high temp and pressure is going to yield, over a long period of time, is going to yield larger crystals. Lower temp and pressure, less time possibly, will form smaller crystals. This piece is really neat though, because look at this. You have this kind of neat little handle right here that you can kind of hook onto or hold. But then notice the outside edge here. You have this beautiful banded agate here, this banded agate layer, and almost like a gorgeous little outer ring of smoky quartz. That's really cool. And so the smoky quartz, again, that's from, you know, that irradiation, that heat energy that's being used to, you know, to form the crystal, obviously. But yeah, just take a look at some of those beautiful, beautiful points. All right, we'll put it aside for you. Yeah, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous specimen. All right. You know, sometimes I'll take people mining with me. You know, it's a lot of work. The hardest thing is like, you know, actually going out and, you know, like collecting the specimens or whatever. There's some locations that are like, you know, nice for field collecting. So that's basically a location where there's a open flat field that you can easily drive up onto, and the specimens are literally out just in the open. You know, they're just laying in the dirt and you can walk around and collect them. So field collection is a lot easier for people. The hard stuff, if I know that the person I'm taking with me can like definitely carry their own weight, has no problem hiking up hills and mountains with a bunch of heavy rocks on their back, I will take them to, you know, a bunch of different mines, and I have. So it's definitely like a case-by-case basis. We've talked a lot about maybe having some field trips, you know, where we take people on little adventures. But it's definitely very physically demanding work. You know, I just tell you a story, for example, as I'm showing this beautiful piece of purple marble from Mexico. Has some shungite in it as well. Here we go. Well, heck yeah, if you want to come along, we can definitely set something up. You got us on Instagram, so definitely message us and let us know. Now, this is some purple marble, again, another colloquial name for this mineral. The purple tends to come from some lithium, but again, the purple color for a lot of purple minerals is just really hard to determine, to be honest. A lot of you know, specimens that have this purple coloration tend to have very complicated chemical formulas, so they're very just complicated. So trying to figure out where the color comes from is difficult. Almost any purple mineral that you can think of, no geologist or mineralogist will even know where the color comes from. It's kind of frustrating, to be honest. But these actually are nice slabs. You can actually, these are nice display pieces to throw on your shelf or something. And each slab that we have all sorts of different slabs. Comes with a slab stand, so you can put it up on your shelf and stand up and stuff, that kind of thing. This is an $88 slab. Let's take a close-up look here. So again, kind of going back to what I was saying about the mining, there's this one location in outside of Tucson, Arizona, that I like to go mining at sometimes, and it's a old silver and copper mine. And this copper mine, it's abandoned, so it's actually, the whole area was turned into a little like trail, and so you can hike along the trail and, you know, take your dog on it or whatever. I'm going to show another piece over here. This is another piece of purple marble. This is also from Durango, Mexico. $94 for this specimen. And so I go out there and I hike over there and I try to go through the tailing piles, which are these massive piles of rough material that miners would leave behind. They would look at that stuff and that's not what they're looking for. It's not ore, so they'll just toss it in a pile somewhere. But the tailings, the tailing piles can actually have a lot of really pretty minerals in them. Like, for example, carbonates or things like that are, look at the purple in there, that are commonly found forming along with the metals. So all basically go down to this place, and the mine itself, the tailing pile, is down inside of a ravine. And last time I went, I hiked down this ravine, and it's maybe about 200, 300 feet. Basically a slope like that probably, so almost 45 degrees, and it's all rough gravel. Hike all the way down it, and hike up a 25-foot tall tailing pile, and fill my bag, my duffel bag at the time. I had an army duffel bag that I filled to the brim with this stuff. I was just going crazy, and I tried picking it up. I could not even lift it, so I was very determined. So I got down on my hands and knees, put the straps on, and I used my legs, and I just lifted up that huge bag and went down the tailing pile, fell down a couple times, slipped and fell, got beat up, went up the ravine, fell down a couple times, got back up, got back to my car, unloaded everything, and I was so sore. I had bruises all up and down my back and shoulders from how heavy the bag was. And then, of course, I was banged up and scraped up from falling a bunch of times. But just to kind of give you an example of, like, it really depends. Like, it's not always like that. But there's some mines that are just very treacherous. But whenever I do go, and whenever I take my friends along, we always take the appropriate equipment and the all the tools, and take all the precautions. It's kind of fun getting roughed up and being in nature. And definitely for you, Lisa, if you've gone on a couple field trips, you kind of get that. It's definitely fun stuff going out there and being in nature and seeing that, especially abandoned mines, seeing the amount of work that a lot of people back in the 1800s, early turn of the century, went through just trying to get material. Absolutely insane. All right, so now we're going to move on to some really cool selenite slabs. These are a bit thicker than the purple marble slabs, and they're a lot cheaper. Selenite is another evaporate mineral, similar to gypsum. So it's actually very, very soft. It's so soft, in fact, that you can actually scratch it with your fingernail. That means that the mineral is softer than your fingernail. Think about that. So again, really pretty stuff. Selenite is, again, one of those rod-forming crystals, right? So notice these striations on the side. It forms in linear rods that channel light. So again, kind of like a natural sort of fiberglass. And so, light travels through it very easily. You can even see, like, my fingers on the other side, sort of. We have some really clear borate minerals that are very similar to this. One of them is called ulexite. And you can actually crystal clear see through the mineral. It's really cool. So I guess this is our last one that we have. Gotta get more of this stuff. So a lot of our selenite slabs either come from Morocco or come from the Sonoran Desert area. So California, really Southern California, around the Salton Sea. Yeah, this is some really cool stuff. It's so soft, in fact, too, that a lot of, artists and sculptors will actually use it as a carving material. So you can actually easily carve into this stuff. So I'd recommend, too, if anybody is really into carving, getting something like this is great. A great segue into, like, carving something a little more hard, like marble, since this is so soft. You don't even need a chisel. You can just, like, etch into it. I've also, in fact, made plenty of sculptures out of gypsum or selenite. Kind of a neat little thing. All right, so next, again, $9 for this. Next, we're going to look at some more soft material. This is, again, some evaporate material. We got a big chunk of zebra calcite. Now, this piece is really pretty. Remember how we talked about calcite and how it's so colorful and has all these different bands because of, you know, the water and where it was coming from. Well, this, again, no exception. This is really cool stuff. So in this circumstance, again, $48 for this beautiful big chunk of calcite. Take a look at the bands in that. Now, this banding is actually from manganese. So manganese deposits will actually create this dark banding here. A little bit of iron. We got some transition into yellow calcite here, just barely. But this stuff is, again, called zebra calcite. You can see why. It has, you know, black and white stripes. And just the banding, it just looks like candy, like taffy. People have kind of, you know, said looks like some sort of candy or something like that before. Definitely looks very fluid, you know, looks very edible. I wouldn't recommend eating it though. Again, very cool stuff. Just take a look at the bands in there. Now, again, remember evaporate minerals, right? When the water's evaporating, it leaves behind a tiny little layer of crystal. And if you count all of these different bands, you could, depending on the area, if you knew the amount of runoff, if you knew the rate of crystallization of an area, you could actually determine the age of the specimen just by looking at how many bands it had. There's, you know, a crystallization evaporation rate. Oftentimes, though, you know, it's much easier to just, you know, do, you know, radiometric dating. That is just a lot easier. But again, just look how massive this piece is. Just look at that. Absolutely massive. I love this kind of stuff. I mean, you got like little pockets in there, cool bands. You know, that's right. We are an essential service. No, it is a shame that we had to, you know, stop doing our in-person gem shows because of this pandemic. But at the same time, you know, it's like we got this lovely, you know, service, the service that we all take for granted called the internet. It's been neat doing these streams. You know, it's fun for us and fun for everybody else, and gets people distracted from the chaos in the world. So, you know, it's kind of nice. So we're going to move on to our next little grouping here. This is some handmade stuff here. These are mortar and pestles. Now, a mortar and pestle, if you are unfamiliar with what that is, commonly used in herb production or spice production or cooking. It's basically like a little grounding bowl with a grounding stone where you can actually grind up, you know, things like garlic or chives or spices or whatever, and grind it up and kind of mix it all together. And so mortar and pestles have been used a lot for herbalism, you know, and, you know, alchemy, cooking. It's kind of like a staple for any chef, really. You'd see these a lot in kitchens. So all of these are actually $20 each. We've got quite a few of them. I'm going to set them all up here, just in a row, and see if we can kind of get them all here in this little display box. So we got beautiful green onyx from Mexico, and then we have red marble from Mexico. Again, another soft mineral, soft rock, great for carving. And then we have black marble from Mexico as well. Now, all of these are $20 each, and they're all from Mexico, and they're all hand carved. A lot of our carved onyx specimens are handmade, things like this. If they're from Mexico, they're all from a family in Mexico. They all make these really cool stuff. So again, each one is just has a different look. I guess I'll kind of showcase each one at a time. The black marble, just really pretty. You have this like really sleek, classic kind of look here. lots of like white veins of marble running through it, with this kind of dark black calcium rich rock. Really neat stuff. And so the color, I mean, just alone is just gorgeous. So, I mean, this would be a nice addition for someone's, you know, herb kit, or heck, if you if you partake in the marijuana, you can use this as a grinder, I guess. I don't know. You can use this for grinding up your herbs at home. You know, next time you're cooking that delicious steak, right? Grind up some garlic with some herbs, for some rosemary, put it all in here. Just even as a decoration for your kitchen, you know, it's kind of nice. So that's the black marble. This red marble, take a look at this. So definitely a different look, different color, obviously. It's very cool. Now the red marble, again, this is all forms in the roughly like the same area, but just depending on what kind of like sediments you have. In this case, volcanic sediments like ash and things like that, that will determine the difference in color. Onyx, though, onyx is more similar to calcite. So onyx is kind of like, again, it's basically like calcite, just a, you know, kind of a beautiful mix of it, I guess. It's more similar and more hard like marble, so it has more silicate material inside of it. But again, it's still a calcium carbonate mineral. Let's take a look at that. Those different like strata, the different layers of the calcite in there, the onyx. And again, the green with the blues. I mean, take a look at those layers. I mean, that's really pretty. This would be something that you'd want to get, like, you know, and have in your kitchen. For me, I want it. We got 3 different styles here, right? So depending on what your aesthetic is, we got it, you know. Really cool stuff. Look at that. I just love those layers in there. That's really neat. And that dark kind of green right in the center, that's really cool. All right, we're going to move on to our next series of specimens. So it looks like we got, next on the list, we got a fluorite stand with some desert rose specimens. And some other really cool things. Looks like we got a handmade juniper box. How about that? Let's get that out there. All right, so next I think we're going to look at this gorgeous fluorite stand. All of our fluorite stands are really pretty. These are all from China. They're rainbow fluorites from China. And just take a look at the coloration in there. I mean, wow. That is just mind-boggling. Just look at the color. Blues, the greens, the purples, and look at those strata lines. Those growth lines are really pretty. Just as a reminder for everybody watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram, if you see something that you like on the stream, just drop a comment below in the chat. If you're watching this as a video on demand, when we're not doing the stream, still message us and say, hey, is that still for sale? And it probably is still for sale, or maybe it's not. Ask, and we will get you set up and prepared. So a lot of our fluorite, like I said, you can find this all around the world. There's in fact, a very cool fluorite deposit nearby in San Diego, California, close to us. It's out by 29 Palms. Anybody knows where that is? It's northeast of the Salton Sea, and there is a fluorite deposit out there. I've gone out there twice now. It's really just hard to get to. It's just in the middle of nowhere, but really cool. I have yet to like start working with the material. Last time I went, I got quite a bit of it, but I can't wait. We're actually currently getting our workshop, our lapidary shop, like kind of remodeled, set up, and built. So once we get that finished, I'm gonna be in there all the time, building stuff, making things. But yeah, I mean, just look at this. I mean, I love these fluorite stands because, like, you get these microsilicon fractures in there, and just take a look at the way the light refracts off of these. Really pretty in the sunlight. And just the color is just gorgeous. And $48 for something like this, that is really cool. Alright, so we're going to move on to our next grouping. Right now, we have some desert rose specimens. These are desert roses from Sonora, Mexico, and they are absolutely massive and very, very cheap. So, again, desert roses are actually a type of crystal, but the mineral is selenite or gypsum. They form in very dry conditions in the desert, in the sand, and the clusters, they take anywhere between 100 years to a couple thousand years to grow, so they're relatively young crystals. And yes, these are evaporate minerals as well. Now this specimen here is $40. Now, again, this is a very good price, especially for the size and the quality. Just like all of our specimens, to keep in mind, any price that you see on any of our specimens, you can expect it to quadruple in any other rock shop. Because we're direct from the mine source, so we don't deal with middlemen. Close up here. Take a look at that. I just love these. It's like looking into like a little spiky cavern, you know? Now, the other side has a different look. Now, all of our large desert rose clusters, they also do come with a little display stand, so you can, set it up on your shelf very nicely. So, definitely a nice way to display it. Let's take a look at those beautiful clusters in there. Now, these are just really pretty. I really like these. I think they're very interesting, very thought-provoking. In fact, heck, I mean, I would totally, dig a art exhibit where minerals are being shown instead of paintings. That would be my kind of art exhibit. Definitely a very, very cool specimen. So next, we're going to look at another desert rose cluster. This next cluster, though, much larger desert roses. Now, the name, right, desert rose, where does it come from? Well, just look at the shape, right? The shape of the crystal kind of looks like a little blossom or a little bloom, little rosebud. Now, this is another $40 specimen, and I think this one's really cool. So, let's take a look here. Take a look at this. Isn't that cool? I think desert roses are just one of those really unappreciated rocks, like not many people really appreciate them for what they are. People take them for granted. And I think that's because they're so cheap, and they're so common. You see them a lot in like gas stations, like little gift shops, that kind of thing. So people just tend to not really they just overlook them, I think. I think that they're very fascinating and they're very pretty and they deserve much love and attention. So, and for a price like $40 for a massive cluster like this, I mean, heck, I think I'd want to appreciate this all the time. It's a very good price. And just look at the structure too. Again, with the last one we saw, right? Smaller buds, or desert rose buds, right? These are much larger, and the larger the bud, right, the larger the crystal, each individual little round vesicle is its own crystal. Depending on the size, right? If we have a really large, massive one, it must have taken a long time for that specimen to grow. So the larger the specimen, the larger the crystal, the more time it took to grow. So making this much more rare and uncommon than the other one, since it's older. Again, another $40 desert rose specimen. Beautiful display. I love it. All right, next we're gonna look at some more cool, unique things. All right, so in here we got some neat stuff here. So this is some more handmade material. These are, again, made out of onyx. These are onyx dice. All right, so this would be great for like D&D session, right? If you're into gambling or into playing dice or Yahtzee, I guess, having some of these would be kind of cool. Each one is unique and different. Of course, has all 6 sides, and of course is natural onyx. I mean, just take a look at some of these. I mean, just the striations, the layers, the coloring. This is absolutely gorgeous stuff. If you really want to show off to somebody and be like, yeah, you know, I got some dice, or you may have some dice, but look at my dice. My dice are way cooler because they're made of cool onyx, you know? I want to be that guy who has the onyx dice. Well, I guess I am that guy. So, you know, again, these are 6-sided die, and maybe someday, in the relative future, we will have more sides, like 12-sided die. That would be cool. Now, price-wise, these are $5 each. So, again, for a massive dice like this, you know, this is about maybe, I'd say, 8 times the size of a regular standard die. So this is quite large. So $5 for a piece like this, not bad. Now, I would say this is great for use if you're going to use this for like a game, like on a table or, you know, like, you know, on a wooden surface or like, you know, if you're at home or whatever. Definitely would not use these on a glass table. Probably not. Definitely wouldn't want to use them on like a hard surface, like a hard rock surface. You know, just remember hardness of different things. You could either break the dice or you could break the thing that you're throwing it on. But I think, you know, that should be pretty straightforward. Yeah, I mean, some of these are really just pretty. I mean, just look at that. This one's really cool. Again, you got some of that layering in there. Beautiful onyx layering. This one's more green. I like the green ones. The green ones that are, you know, tend to be a little more translucent. Let some more light in. Now this one's really cool. Look at that. Imagine showing up to a D&D session with this guy. Look at that. Look at all those different layers in there. Nah, this is really pretty. I think this is my favorite one. Last but not least, of course, we got this guy. And we started off with beautiful, beautiful browns in there, some greens. Again, I think the last one was my favorite, though. And again, these are $5 each. Onyx. Green onyx. I think next, you know what we're gonna look at some something that we also have in stock here. It's not mineral related, but it is metaphysical related. So one thing that we, of course, have on hand, we are spiritual people, and a lot of our customers are spiritual people. So we usually sell like white sage, for example, sage bundles for burning, Palo Santo wood, sweetgrass. So, you know, of course, we have beautiful bundles of sage just like this. All of our large white sage bundles, they're all $7 each. So again, this is something that's like, you know, kind of nice to have, either for spiritual work, for cleansing a little household, a space. So sage is definitely used for a lot of cleansing purposes. If you have some negative energy you want to clear out of a space, it's very powerful stuff. Also smells really beautiful too. And again, also as a reminder too, you know, all of our minerals and specimens and everything that we sell is all ethically harvested and all, you know, ethically collected. So it's, you know, we take a lot of great care in the people that we the miners that we buy from. We tend to buy from a lot of family businesses because of that. So we don't buy from a lot of large corporations or anything like that. So if it's not mined by us or collected by us, it is collected or mined by somebody that we know, and we know where it came from. So this white sage, for example, this all of this stuff, except for the Palo Santo, the sweetgrass and the sage comes from a Native American family, and they're based in North Dakota, and they actually braid their own sweetgrass and they collect it. They sell a lot of their stuff on the Crow Reservation. So just another kind of little neat aspect of our business. You know, we like to deal with a lot of other family businesses, since we are a family business. And again, you know, definitely making sure that we take great care of the earth that we live on. So, but yeah, again, these are white sage bundles. Again, really great for cleansing an area of negative energy, and they smell beautiful. And these are all $7 each. And next, we have some sweetgrass. Again, that's from that Native American family in North Dakota that we do business with. And sweetgrass is, again, it's a bit different than sage. Even like smell-wise, it smells like a beautiful, it has its own smell. If you've ever been to Wyoming before in the summertime, the smell of all the wildflowers and the grasses, that's what it smells like. It smells like the Great Plains, you know? And that's like, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. So the sweetgrass, though, historically speaking, and just, you know, from a meditative standpoint, instead of a cleansing purpose, when you burn this, it's used for a lot of spiritual connectivity. So if you are, you know, having a, you know, meditation, for example, this would be nice stuff to kind of burn as kind of like a spiritual thing to burn. The tribes from the plains would actually use this to connect with the Great Spirit. So they would burn it, and they'd use the smoke to kind of connect to the spirit world. And the idea was that the smoke itself, when it would be carried up into the sky, their thoughts, their prayers, their messages, their energy would be sent up with the smoke as they burned it, because they would meditate. So kind of a neat little thing. Again, from that Native American family in North Dakota, really sweet people. And again, they braid all their own braids. And it's this stuff is, again, this is a seasonal grass, so it grows, definitely doesn't grow in the wintertime, but it grows from the spring throughout the summer. And this stuff, you know, all the cows like to eat it, all the horses like to eat it. It smells really pretty too. So again, just like the sage, you can burn it, but again, different kind of energy, different kind of purpose. The Palo Santo wood, also known as holy wood, comes from the Palo Santo tree in South America. And all of these actually come from Argentina, and these are, again, all harvested by local shamans down there. In fact, you have to be a shaman to even harvest it. And the smell is really beautiful. Again, all of these have different purposes and different scents. Palo Santo wood is very resinous. So, in fact, there's actually Palo Santo amber. Some old trees will actually have amber around the base of them, which is kind of neat. And the resin itself is very flammable. So, when you burn this, a lot of these are going to burn fast. So, definitely when you burn these, any of these, for example, you don't want to keep it lit. You want to ignite a little bit of the herb or the wood or the grass and just blow it out and let it smolder. So holy wood, Palo Santo wood, again, more of a softer energy compared to sage, but in the sense of like kind of going with the sweetgrass, right? This is more of a spiritual connectivity stone. This is something that can really kind of unlock your spiritual self on a higher level. This is not meant for a lot of cleansing purposes. This is more for meditative purposes. So a lot of ritual practices in, like historically speaking, you have a lot of ancient tribes in South America that would use this wood for rituals, So it's a very old practice, old wood. And all of these are Palo Santo little pieces. These are all $1.25 each, but we can also do 5 pieces for $5. So if you want 5 pieces of Palo Santo wood, $5. If you want just one, $1.25. And the sweetgrass that we showed earlier, $8 each for a braid. And again, that kind of covers our spiritual, metaphysical herbs and incenses that we sell. Kind of a neat little thing. And again, it's almost like a perfect pairing, right? Like a perfect pairing with the minerals, If you're gonna get a cool crystal like that, might as well get something like that too. So this next flat, again, there's a lot of heavy stuff in this one. So bear with me here. I'm gonna very carefully put this over here. So we got a lot of stuff in this one, and I think this will probably be the last flat of material that we go through for the stream. We got all sorts of things here. I don't even know where to start. Let's see. Okay, so I think might as well get the larger things out of the way here first. So I think, since it's already out, let's start with the Cobaltian calcite. So Cobaltian calcite has manganese in it. It actually has cobalt in it as well, and chromium, and a bunch of other really weird stuff. And also it's a calcium carbonate mineral. It actually likes to form in massive blocks of marble that's been metamorphically altered. So that means altered via heat and pressure. So all of our Cobaltian calcite specimens, most of them in fact, actually come from the Congo. And this specimen here is $48. Now, Cobaltian calcite, generally this beautiful pink color, right? This is classic for Cobaltian calcite. And you can even see the marble here, the white marble. So this is definitely some kind of impurity. There was a pocket within the marble as it was being heated and recrystallized, where some sort of intrusive jet of material just intruded in for some reason. And that happens every so often. And in this case, some highly saturated chemical solution came in and just deposited this stuff. So again, just like, with the purple marble from earlier, these kind of purple colored, pink colored stones, the color is just relatively unknown, like where it actually comes from, what causes it. And it comes from one of the chemicals inside the mineral, in fact, but because the formula is so complicated, trying to figure out what elements inside the chemical formula causes the coloration is very difficult, near to impossible. So a lot of your purple or even exotically colored specimens will oftentimes be have complicated chemical formulas. But yeah, this Cobaltian calcite's really pretty. This is really good for just like metaphysically speaking. It's good for like love energy. So if you want to bring love into your life, this kind of stone is nice to have. And it's just really beautiful stuff. I would say if you have a mineral collection at home, Cobaltian calcite is one of those unusual minerals that would be kind of nice to have to your collection. It's kind of a neat little pocket of it. And then I like these little, you know, you have these little kind of really concentrated pockets here. This one is really neat. You have these really dark pink colored crystals here. That's really kind of cool. The coloration itself is more like magenta, to be honest. But it does range. Like this next specimen I'll show actually is more like salmon pink. And again, this specimen here is $48 from the Congo, Cobaltian calcite. So our next Cobaltian calcite specimen in the series here, another $48 specimen. This actually has a couple different pockets. I'll show the smaller pocket first, since it's kind of, you know, less cool. Take a look at that. We got this tiny little lip here with these beautiful little crystals in there, little calcite crystals, really pretty. And then we flip it over, and we got this little gorgeous pocket here, light colored pink. I would say too, if some people have certain aesthetics, you know, like different colors that they're really into. I'd say, you know, if pink is your aesthetic, Cobaltian calcite would definitely be like a cool stone to actually like add to that. Same thing with like pink quartz and stuff. This specimen actually I really like. I really love the really colorful Cobaltian calcite specimens, but this one is really neat. It has this kind of nice soft pink tone. It's not too obtrusive. And you just have this gorgeous kind of sparkle, this druzy. I think that's really pretty. Again, this is a $48 specimen from the Congo, Cobaltian calcite. Get one more close-up look here. Look at that. That's like a disco ball. That's really cool. A lot of these specimens too, the more facets you have, each facet is just another surface or face for the light to reflect off of. And it's just like a disco ball, you know, you have, you know, light reflecting off of the surface of the mirror and shining onto the wall or the floor. You can actually take one of these points, like a cluster of any kind that has lots of facets, and take a flashlight and just shine it in the middle of your house at night and just watch all of these beautiful just reflections just shoot off in all directions around your room. Really neat. All right, so next we're going to look at some more cool specimens. Let's see what we got here. I'd say let's look at the spheres that we have here. So this is one of our obsidian spheres. Obsidian is really cool. This is all from Sonora, Mexico. And each one of our spheres, of course, comes with a little sphere stand. So do not fret, it will not roll away. You can put it nicely on your shelf or on your desk or wherever you want it. Obsidian itself is really good for, again, just diffusing negative energy. In fact, metaphysically, a lot of people will use obsidian for trouble sleeping. If you have bad dreams or something like that, putting a little piece of obsidian, like a palm stone, we have palm stones of obsidian, for example, under your pillow or inside your pillowcase seems to help. So definitely one of those metaphysical kind of attributes, kind of cool. The setting that this comes from, geologically speaking, this is, you know, again, Sonora, Mexico. So we're talking about an area that is tectonically active, and it's currently a spreading zone. So this is a transitionary area where you have spreading occurring, so separation of two plates. And you have a transform zone, also known as the San Andreas Fault Zone, that is, again, very tectonically active. So all along the spreading area around the, you know, the little area between Baja California and mainland Mexico is where you have a lot of volcanics happening. And that's where you find this. You find a lot of this obsidian in that area. So a lot of this obsidian will either be silver sheen or gold sheen obsidian, meaning that it actually has little pockets or layers of ash inside that make it look like there's silver inside. But you also are right. If there's actually silver inside, there actually can be metallurgist ore deposits within the obsidian. So In this specimen here, you can kind of see this sort of shimmer, right? This like light colored shimmer whenever I move the sphere. That is that sheen, right? That's that layering inside that creates that reflectivity. It's kind of a neat little aspect of the obsidian. And again, this is a $39 sphere. Spheres tend to be very expensive, so if you see this in a shop, this is probably going to be like, 8 times more expensive or something like that. So something in a metaphysical shop, you can expect to pay like $150 to $200 for something like this. So it's definitely a really good price for a sphere. And to make one of these, spheres tend to be a lot more expensive than a lot of other shaped stones because you need like a special sphere polisher to even create something like this. So definitely a really cool thing to have. So next we're going to look at another sphere here. And this sphere is a yellow calcite sphere. This is some optical calcite. This is $78, but boy, is it beautiful. Take a look at the color in that. Really just shines brightly. Take a look at how that light just plays with the stone. That's really pretty. I love this stuff. Calcite, just optical calcite in general, is like I don't have a favorite mineral. I have like a big list of them, and optical calcite specifically is on that list. Just the stories behind it, the historical uses, just in general, it's really cool. This sphere, the material itself actually comes from Morocco. So again, we kind of noticed that difference here, right? In Mexico, a lot of the calcites actually are more opaque, less translucent, and in other places around the world they tend to be a little more translucent. So really it just depends on how stable the environment is when the crystal's forming. That's really cool stuff. All right. Now, again, like I said before, this is probably going to be our last flat, so we've covered a lot of material here, so we don't really have a lot more time, but we're going to get through this flat. That's what we're going to do. So this is some dark citrine. So this is citrine. Again, we talked about amethyst and citrine having iron impurities. Dark citrine tends to have this really beautiful dark amber coloration. I mean, just take a look at that. Now, this kind of citrine, whenever you see this, a lot of people will think it's like, oh, it's really striking, and it is. It's really beautiful stuff. But the color, it is citrine. It is, but it's been altered. So, and generally, when most of this stuff is actually altered in a man-made fashion. So a lot of crystals will actually be heated and cooked, just like smoky quartz, for example, can be man-made. You can have man-made smoky quartz. This is like man-made citrine, if that is even a thing. So you have obviously your original crystal that you start with. The alteration occurs by heating it. So the heating actually changes the chemical structure a bit and changes the way the light travels through it. So it changes the color. But again, they're really beautiful display pieces, and just the color alone is just gorgeous. Almost this amber golden color. Really pretty. This next piece right here, another dark citrine specimen. And again, all these dark citrine specimens here, these are all $12 each. So not too bad, actually. This piece is a lot more lighter. I kind of like the dark citrine when it's a bit lighter in color. You can definitely see the color a lot more. And these look very pretty in the sunlight as well. Really pretty stuff. Wow. Take a look at that. Look, it's, again, that disco ball effect. Really pretty stuff. If we get a close up here, we can even see that. Like, just look at that. That's really pretty. Yeah, that's absolutely gorgeous. I love this stuff. All right. So next, I think we're going to look at some agate slabs. These are all agate slabs from Brazil. So again, we just got like, a pocket, that's filled in with silicate material. And all of these agate slabs, they're banded agate slabs, again, from Brazil. And they're all very beautiful. So each one's a bit different. These are all natural. So they're, oftentimes, yeah, this is kind of sad. Agate, for example, when you have a lot of people who dye them, like dyed agate, for example, I think that really, in some cases, it can look pretty, but my preference is I don't like it. So all of our agate slabs have natural coloration. So again, you can definitely tell the difference between a natural agate slab and a artificial one, or dyed one, for example. So here's an agate slab. Look at that translucency here. Look at that. And just take a look at the way the light travels through it. That's really pretty stuff. Again, these are all agate slabs, but technically these came from geodes. Now, what is the difference here, right? A geode is going to have a cavity inside. And if this was completely filled in, there was no cavity, that would be considered a thunder egg. Thunder eggs are solid through and through. Again, kind of a cool, beautiful yellow slab. And all of our slabs here, these are all $8 each. Definitely really affordable. This one's really pretty. Take a look at that. So again, just the way the light comes through. See if I can just cup it the right way. Kind of see that light coming through. Just take a look at that. All those bands in there. Very pretty. Just take a look at that. Take a look at those bands. Now, the banded agate is just really pretty in my opinion. I really like it. I think that just the bands themselves almost looks like tree rings. A lot of these look very, like imitative compared to tree rings. Really pretty stuff. And we got another one over here. And again, these are all $8 each. Really affordable. This one's, again, a bit different. We got this really beautiful dark banding going on, but take a look at up close at some of these light bands, these little pockets of just like, I don't know, there's some sort of like ferrous material. That's a iron-rich material. That yellowish, these yellow kind of little blobs or stalactites inside. And again, look at that. We got a little hole right in the middle. Kind of neat. I've seen so many things people do with these guys, these agate slabs. I have always wanted to make like a stained glass like window out of one of them. I've always thought that would be kind of cool to do. Have some sort of like stained glass display. So just, put them all together and put them in a window, for example. Really pretty. Now this one's really cool. This is more concentric and round. So this one, I like them when they're not so like oval shaped. And again, that's my own personal preference. Each crystal is, going to be, it's, very unique. It's going to grow in its own certain way. Let's take a look at it looks like a piece of a tree. It looks like a tree log or a tree limb. Just take a look at those bands in there. Those really round concentric bands. Seeing that's like, classic for banded agate. Seeing those concentric bands and just the way the light travels through them at a certain angle, that's beautiful. And then, of course, we got a little gorgeous tiny druzy in the center. That's really nice to see, too. And just the way the light travels through it. Let me see if I can cup it real nicely here. See if we get some nice light play. That's really pretty. Really pretty stuff. All right. This last agate slab we're going to look at here. This is a really pretty piece. This was cut across the grain of some of the points that were inside. You can even see that. Oh man, this is really pretty. Oof, look at that. $8 each for these guys. That's like an excellent deal. Now, and this is something too, it's like, I feel like these are kind of underappreciated. Oftentimes, like just like the desert roses, we oftentimes see these in like gas stations when we're traveling, a travel store or a gift shop or whatever, and people tend to like just take them for granted, but they're really gorgeous. They're really pretty. I mean, take a look at some of those. There's little polyps in there. The coloration, you know, just the history behind it. And what's kind of neat too, this one, for example, looks like it kind of has a purplish or pink tinge to it. This might, in fact, be a pocket of like amethyst here. I mean, these do come from Brazil, so, you know, I wouldn't doubt it. Oh yeah, we'll definitely let you guys know. We've had actually quite a few requests for D&D dice sets, so once we get our shop up and running, we'll definitely start making those. Just take a look at that swirly, I mean, it looks like just a smoke-filled room in there. I mean, look at that. That's really pretty stuff. Yeah, just $8. $8 for any of these slabs. Really pretty. All right, so next we're going to move on to some man-made stuff. We've got some carvings. So, soapstone. Soapstone's a very soft stone. It's really easy to work with. You get a lot of figurines you can make out of it. So, for example, we have some animal figurines that are hand-carved out of soapstone. We have all sorts of them. And we got, like, I think half are animals that you'd see, you know, every day, and then the rest are, like, dinosaurs. So, I think the dinosaur ones are pretty cool. This is a cute little snake, little snake guy. Cute little soapstone snake. Again, soft material, so it's easy to carve. And a lot of these are just really cool, really pretty. Nice to, like, you know, if you want to give gifts to somebody as a gift. And also, too, metaphysically speaking, having these, you know, little fetishes, that's what they're called, fetishes, or, you know, figurines. You can actually, you know, use these a lot in ritual work, and each one symbolizes, you know, the energy of a, you know, a certain animal, right? So oftentimes, if you are, you know, needing some bear energy, get your bear figurine out. You know, get your T-Rex figurine out. So definitely, there's a certain energy behind the different, you know, carvings that you find. But again, these are all soapstone, hand carved. We got a snake guy right here. And all the soapstone figurines that we have, they're all $14 each. So again, these are pretty decent sized as well. So definitely great for travel. Definitely great for like putting on your desk or your shelf somewhere. Next, we got a little dolphin guy. And all of these do stand up on their own. So that's something that's kind of nice too. Cute little dolphin. It's got some yellow soapstone here. Happy little guy. He's like, yeah, look at me. I love rocks and minerals, man. These are like my favorite things in the world. In fact, I'm a rock. Definitely some cool stuff. Yes, and they're all potty trained too. Think about that. They're all potty trained. Well trained, in fact. Yes, they can do many tricks and things like that. You know, they just do them very, very slowly. You can only witness the tricks that they perform in the time frame of 1,000,000 years. So, you know, but they are moving very, very slowly. Next, we got a cute little scorpion guy. You know, kind of neat. Another neat little guy. Again, these are all $14 each. Cute little feet there. And look how intricately they're carved too. I mean, I think that's really cool. Now again, a lot of these, you know, all these actually are coming from that Mexican family that we do business with. They're the ones who also supply a lot of our calcites, things like that. In this business, it's really kind of interesting. We do a lot of business with, people from around the world. So it's quite a culturally unique experience. You get, to meet all sorts of people from everywhere. So it's really kind of cool. This guy is really neat. We got a little dinosaur guy. He's like, yeah, I'm ready to eat some plants here. This is a darker sort of soapstone. This is similar to more of that dark black marble that the mortar and pestles were made out of earlier. So again, same kind of similar material and hand carved. And we get all sorts of these, but today we're only displaying 5 since we have so many and so many other things that we want to look at. Next is a big T-Rex. Look at that. Now this guy's really cool. I think it kind of almost looks like this guy's like wearing shorts. Just that white layer of light soapstone in there kind of makes it look like that. Might actually be some kind of like rhyolite material. A lot of the soapstone is just metamorphically altered ash, so fine clay sediments, very tiny sediments. So that's what makes it so soft, because the grains are so small. Definitely very cool little guy. All right, so next we're gonna look at a big piece of lapis lazuli. This is a really pretty piece. This is a $105 specimen. I think it's cool because you got some nice, whitish quartz with feldspar in there. Lapis lazuli also has this, of course you can see that shiny metallic stuff in there. That is pyrite, iron pyrite, so it is iron rich. Take a look at that royal blue color. Isn't that just pretty? And also the layering. So lapis lazuli is a, metamorphically altered igneous rock. So you only find it where you have igneous granites that have, or gneisses, for example, that have been heated and pressurized, and then you have some sort of intrusion of some kind of, again, random chemicals. So, this is just another, display of that kind of metamorphism, the change of the earth. Yeah, just take a look at some of those layering in there. Oh man, that's just, again, the blue in there is really gorgeous. Now, what really determines the price of lapis is just the coloration, right, and consistency. So this piece here, $105. But on one side we don't really have consistent blueness, but it again, this kind of yields some sort of beauty to it. This spotty kind of blue with white, almost looks like a sky, some white clouds. But this is what we're talking about here. This nice, consistent, royal, deep blue color. That's what determines the price. That's what determines whether you have good quality lapis or bad quality lapis. So again, really cool stuff. Most of this material does come from Pakistan and Afghanistan, the Middle East, modern, or what is now like, around like Tripoli, that area, the Atlas Mountains, the former Babylonian Empire, those regions. Very cool stuff. All right, so I think we're gonna end it with some fluorite specimens, since we got some fluorite specimens here. These are all from Durango, Mexico. And all of these fluorites, this is actually from a new find. So clear fluorite is very rare. And we're going to start off by kind of talking about, just the differences in fluorite. So what determines the color is just impurities. So if you have more iron or more cobalt or more lithium or more this or that, that really determines the color that the fluorite is going to be. So this fluorite, for example, take a look at this. We have clear fluorite, which is basically pure. It just has has fluorine in it, but no impurities. And then it migrates and turns into this gorgeous iron-rich purple, and it's like this, almost like this dark color. But look at that! Look how the light travels through it. Absolutely gorgeous. So this stuff comes from Durango, Mexico, and again, it's really pretty stuff. Nice cubic structure. That's something you don't see a lot of. This next specimen here is really nice. Has a nice clear back. Really, really nice and clear. Kind of translucent, and it lets a lot more light through. So you have like this more faint sort of crystal here. So the coloration is nice and visible with this one. And these are all $28 each. Really pretty. You know, it's kind of nice, like, to end on something like this. You know, nice cubic structure, kind of interesting. Very colorful. Now, our last specimen we're going to look at here, we're going to look at a very nice kind of, it's a bit darker, but it does let some light through. As you can see along the edges, we got some nice coloration for the purple. But, you know, seeing this kind of fluorite here, again, being a new find, you don't see this anywhere else in the world, so it's very unique. And so far, it's pretty rare. But I'm sure as, you know, time goes on, the price will start lowering because more is being found. So again, just another really pretty, just specimen. Again, if you're a mineral collector and you got a small collection at home, fluorite, especially cubic fluorite, that's something that you should have in your collection. That's like a staple, definitely. Same thing with like other cubic minerals, like cubic pyrite, for example. That's another cool specimen that you should have in your collection. Really, really cool stuff. All right, I think we're gonna end it at this. So, just want to thank everybody that's come and gone and still watching our lovely stream. So, again, we're going to be doing this every Sunday, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, just stop in, watch, and, we got some beautiful specimens, all sorts of things. We have so much that it's just hard to kind of go over just like this. When we have an in-person show, we just set out everything that we have. But 3 hours at a time, we kind of work through our collection and stop in. And if you're watching this as a pre-recorded video on demand, either on Twitch or on YouTube, we may still have whatever you're looking at available. So definitely message us, leave a comment in the comment section, and let us know that, hey, I want that piece, and we can get it to you, you all figured out. So again, we're going to be doing this next Sunday, starting at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you guys will be updated, so definitely follow us on Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're watching us on. And we'll be back next weekend, every Sunday. So again, thank you for watching, and we will see you guys again next Sunday.